Welcome to the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC 318, Holloway versus Poirier 3. I'm your host, Ben Duffy of Sherdog.com. With me, as usual, is Keith Schillen, the executive producer of the Sherdog Radio Network. Keith, cold sore Schillen, how's it going over there, man? You look a little blemished since the last time we talked, less than 24 hours ago.
Yeah, I was like, great. People think I have herpes or some shit. No, I was playing with my dog and I had like this stick thing. I kept having a flicking at her, and I was making her jump up, and she hit it and it flicked and it caught me right here on the lip. So, and I had a little scab and I pulled it and made it worse. So I'm like, that's why I'm not a BMF, because I was like, this son of a bitch. I said it swearing. I'm like, that's why they didn't call me for it. But there you go. All the world can see.
As Keith alluded to, this fight is for the UFC's mythical ad hoc BMF belt, which Holloway picked up with that scintillating last-second knockout of Justin Gaethje last year. Poirier, if ever a man was made to at least compete for this belt, he is it, and it is what we have been told is his retirement fight. At his request, it is in his native state of Louisiana. You gotta love when the UFC manages to get something right like that. Now, this is something I really should probably save for the recap, but I'll say this: of pre-declared retirement fights of fighters this prominent, I trust Dustin Poirier in this more than I would most other fighters.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I don't know if they picked the right opponent. They didn't give him an easy one, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It being Dustin Poirier, I could see him even turning down easier opponents.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but
he probably asked for Max Holloway, which is crazy. But yeah, I agree. I think if he says he's retired, I believe this is the last we'll see of him.
Yeah, which refreshing. If he wins, obviously that is a Hollywood type ending, but even if he loses in a great fight with a great rival and then swings off into the sunset to go on being the great person that he seems to be, that's not a bad ending either, compared to, again, what we usually get in MMA. South of that main event, we've got a 14-fight card. Tell me what you think of the UFC 318 bill outside of that main event.
You give me Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway. I mean, that's an incredible fight. But that fight should have been third from the top in International Fight Week. And the UFC threw a whole pay-per-view and drained their fans of another, $70 twice in the same month. I mean, you're draining $140 from pay-per-views. When I would be honest, this pay-per-view to me feels like it lost the main event and co-main event. You know, there should have been two title fights that got canceled. And I'm out of respect for Holloway and Poirier, I'm giving this a D- when you score it on a pay-per-view.
Oh,
you have Michael Johnson in the main card.
If we lose the main event, your new main event is Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov. The UFC couldn't charge money for that. Like this,
they will.
UFC 318 would be dead. Yeah, but UFC 318 would be dead in the water.
Yeah, you hope so. No, I'm not rooting for that to happen, but I mean, to me, it's like, come on, really, guys? Like, you got to charge two pay-per-views the same month, and this is what you're going to give us? I'm sorry, it's terrible. It's D-.
Yeah, I can't really argue with it. You've got the opening fight and the closing fight have a Louisiana fighter in them. You got Brendan Allen stuck in the middle, so they did about as well as they could that way. There's not much I can really say in defense. It's not even as though we lost some incredible fight off this card. No, this is as the UFC constructed it. So nonetheless, we got 14 fights to talk about. Should we go ahead and jump into these prelims?
Yeah, let's do it.
First up on the UFC 318 prelims, we jump right into a matchup that's going to have 2/3 of the UFC broadcaster's desk getting names wrong right off the bat, as it is Nicolle Caliari versus Carli Judice. Caliari, the 28-year-old Brazilian, is 8-3 overall. She's 0-1 since joining the UFC out of Season 8 of Dana White's Contender Series. She made her UFC debut back in January at UFC Fight Night Dern versus Ribas, where she dropped a split decision to Ernesto Carrascaite. She will look to get her first official UFC win at the expense of Judice. 26-year-old from Lafayette, Louisiana, 4-2 overall, 1-1 since joining the UFC as a veteran of Season 7 of the Contender Series. She actually lost on the Contender Series to Ernesto Carrascaite, ironically, got called up to the UFC anyway last June, where she dropped a split decision to Gabriela Fernandez. She came back this March at UFC Fight Night Vettori versus Dolidze 2 and head kicked Yunesi Dubin in a minute and a half. So looking to build on that momentum, she is comfortably favored to do so. Judice is minus 250, Caliari plus 215 as your underdog. All right, Keith, it seems as though we had an audio issue while you were talking about the Caliari versus Judice fight. Do you want to just sum up what you said in 15 or 20 seconds?
Yeah, it's sad. This is just kind of the show this has been going. It's sad because I think might have been the most in-depth, perfect prediction I've ever done. Probably the most thorough. It would be really cheap of me to try to like redo it. It would, like, when something's done that well, you just kind of have to let it be. So we kind of view the fight very similar. She's longer, she's bigger. I think she can figure out from range. So I had Judice too.
I am having to revise my take on Carli Judice a little bit. When she fought on the Contender Series and then got the call up to the UFC anyway, I didn't really see the point in it. She seemed very raw and somebody who had not even fought at the top level of Gulf Coast promotions yet. So I wasn't thinking, oh, this is a lousy fighter that's never going to be UFC material, but I was like, this is a 25-year-old with 4 career fights. Like, let her stay in Louisiana and keep fighting and give her a call up to the Contender Series again 18 months from now. But she's turned out to be better than I expected and to have made the leap to catch up to the level of the division she's in quicker than I would have expected, which again, we see that happen all the time when a young fighter with, say, fewer than 10 career fights all of a sudden finds themselves in a position where they can train full time. So that might be part of it. And on some level, Carli Judice is, I mean, to go with blonde Louisiana girl, she's kind of turning into what we were always told Andrea Lee was going to be, because Judice is like you mentioned, a tall, long-framed striker, but I think she's actually a little quicker and more athletic than Andrea Lee. I mean, at this point, what is she, 4-2, 5-2? She already has 2 head kick knockouts, which has got to delight Aaron Phillips over there at Head Kicks MMA. Something that Lee did on the regional scene, but kind of turned into a grinder at the UFC level. So I am cautiously optimistic about Carli Judice at this point. You summed up Nicolle Caliari's game perfectly. So it really just boils down to, can she get inside, close the distance, get her hands on Judice, either just mash her into the fence and get work done that way, or actually get her down to the canvas. Caliari, I'm pretty sure, is one of, or had been one of Marina Rodriguez's primary sparring partners. So she's got to be used to dealing with somebody who's tall and lanky and wants to keep her all the way out. I think this line should be a lot closer than 2.5 to 1 in favor of Judice, but I'm with you. I think she probably stays upright, keeps it on the outside, touches Caliari up enough to win 2 rounds out of 3, and yeah, the crowd will go bananas. Next up on the UFC 318 prelims is a middleweight matchup between Brunno Ferreira and the very unfortunate Jackson McVey. Ferreira, the 32-year-old Brazilian, is 13-2 overall. He's 4-2 since joining the UFC out of Season 6 of Dana White's Contender Series. He's coming in off a win. He fought at UFC 313 back in March, where he arm triangled Armen Petrosian in the second round. He will look to build on the momentum of that win against McVey. 26-year-old Minnesota native, though training out of Missouri, I believe it is, 6-0 as a professional. This will be his UFC debut, and when I called him unlucky, it's because he was supposed to fight at UFC 317. Thanks to a comedy of errors, he had one opponent fall off when Cedric Dumas could not get his ankle monitor taken off in time. I wish I was joking about that. The UFC then pulled up, what's his name? Christopher Ewart, the Chilean guy. He showed up 10 pounds heavy, and they scrapped the fight entirely. What does McVey get for all his trouble and pain? He gets pushed down the road a month, and he gets an actual fringe contender in Bruno Ferreira. Yeah, rough stuff. McVey, for all the juggling that's taken place, actually fought 4 weeks ago. I mean, he fought at LFA 210 back at the beginning of June, but he steps in here, and he is a massive underdog. Ferreira is minus 750 as your favorite. McVey plus 500 as your underdog. I said ahead of what was supposed to be his debut at UFC 317, McVey wasn't even the top middleweight in LFA at the time the UFC snatched him up, but of the middleweights in LFA, he might have been the one with the greatest upside. He's young. He's still just 26 years old. Physically, he is a matchup problem. He's a 6'4" guy who's actually pretty nimble. He tries to use his length in the striking as well as on the ground. He's got, kind of tall man ground game where he uses his long arms and long legs well. So I'm glad that McVey is on his way to the UFC right now, even though he's just 6-0, even though, again, he wasn't even next in line for the LFA middleweight title. I'm glad they picked him up rather than just the, Marcus Perez or Ian Heinisch 2.0 that's already 30 and further along in his career. But McVey has more upside. Having said all that, I was dubious of Bruno Ferreira when he came to the UFC. If you're a regular on the show, you know that anytime somebody comes from Brazil, former Soviet republics, other less well-regulated areas with an undefeated record and a ridiculously jacked physique, I like to give him a couple of fights. But Ferreira is still, he is still an imposing specimen as a fighter. He is jacked beyond belief. He is actually an explosive athlete. And while his striking it's rudimentary, like technically, it's effective just because of how much mustard he puts on everything. Having said that, his 2 losses in the UFC so far are to longer, lankier, rangier guys than himself who have kind of managed the distance against him. A more evolved version of McVey, maybe if these guys fought 2 years from now, might be able to do that to Ferreira. But here, I understand why the line is what it is. McVey's coaches presumably have him prepped for, okay, he's going to come try to slug his way into range against you. You need to use lateral movement, move your head for God's sake, and, try to draw him onto a counter. If he tries one of his just bull rush takedowns, sprawl, get your hips out of there, or, if you wrap him up in the front headlock, make sure you got it before you fall to guard. I'm sure they've given him an appropriate game plan. I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think he's going to be shocked by how strong Ferreira is, how fast he is, how hard he hits. So, like I say, unlucky Jackson McVey. There were a couple more appropriate debut matchups in the works for him. This is what he gets instead. I should mention that McVey himself is in for Ikram Aliskerov. So, I mean, that's an indication of what the UFC thought was an appropriate matchup for Bruno Ferreira ahead of this. A guy that was headlining UFCs last summer and, was a top 10 fighter at the time. So Bruno Ferreira by first round knockout here. Again, good to have McVey in the UFC. I think he'll stick around, but this one's going to be ugly.
Yeah, this is a huge step up in competition. Uh, I'm with you, dude. I feel bad for McVey. I mean, good for him to get in the UFC, and we've seen guys pull up upsets and not like Brunno Ferreira is indestructible, but if it goes wrong against Brunno Ferreira, it goes wrong bad. Like, he's a southpaw that can fight out of both stances. He's a boxer, like you mentioned. He's not very technical, but dude is explosive. He will set up his shots with feints though, but he hits like a truck. Like he's got this short right hook from the southpaw stance that I've called it before a kill switch. He's got 9 TKOs. He does have a lot of issues defensively. He takes a lot of shot. He keeps his chin high. He's open to leg kicks. But what's impressed me recently is he's a judo black belt. He's been wrestling a lot. I mean, he got takedowns against Phil Hawes. His entries are weird. He especially from shooting from distance, he kind of explodes into the entries and kind of just ducks his head and bull rushes, but it works for him. And he has a submission threat if he has to fight the ground. He's got 4 subs. He caught Armin Perusian in an armbar and a scramble in his last fight. He does have some poor defensive wrestling, but he did well against Gregor Rodriguez to get back up. Do it as the explosive style. He will gas out. And I'm a little worried about his chin. I mean, he's got starched by Huzabayev, but he would do the same to the McVey. McVey, I think he's a good addition. He's well-rounded. He's long and lanky. His hand speed is kind of slow, but he will throw straight punches. He's got okay power. He keeps his chin too high for my liking. He doesn't set up his kicks. Something that he's going to be very dangerous against Brunno Ferreira if he throws a kick without setting up. He loves the clinch. He's got some really nice knees inside, good elbow inside. Some position that he might do well against Brunno Ferreira. He's going there. Not much of an offense wrestler, but he is a submission artist. He gets to fight the ground. Like I said, I think McVey is a good addition. Yeah, I just think Ferreira is a best stylistic matchup. I mean, you were talking about his corner and how they can prep him for a fight. I mean, shit, Timothy McVeigh's corner could have prepped him better for the electric chair than your boy McVey's going to go against Brunno Ferreira. I think he gets caught early, hits him with a bomb, and I
Hits
think
him with a bomb. Oh my god.
Guys, I'm sorry. I did not do that on purpose. That I did not do on purpose.
I know.
That's
Ooh.
damn. Anyways, first round knockout by Ferreira.
Heavyweights are up next at UFC 318 as Ryan Spann faces off against Lukasz Brzeski. Spann, the 33-year-old Texan, though he is from Beaumont, which is right on the border with Louisiana, so the Louisiana crowd may treat him like a native son. We can only hope. At any rate, 33 years old, currently fighting out of Dallas, 22-11 overall, 8-6 since joining the UFC as a 2-time veteran of Dana White's Contender Series. He fought on seasons 1 and 2. 8-6 in the promotion, 0-1 at heavyweights. He moved up to heavyweight earlier this year, faced Waldo Cortez Acosta at UFC Fight Night Vettori versus Dulatov back in March, and got knocked out late in the second round. So the Ryan Spann heavyweight experiment will get another try here against Brzeski. 33-year-old Pole is 9-6-1 with 1 no contest overall. He is 1-5 in the UFC. He won on season 5 of the Contender Series. The win was overturned when he tested positive for PEDs, but he was allowed to keep the contract. He has not made the most of it since. Like I say, 1-5 in the UFC and on a 2-fight losing streak. He fought most recently back in December, where he got knocked out in the first round by Kennedy Zechikwu. So never say never in today's UFC, but Brzeski very likely fighting for his job here. And according to the bookmakers, at least, not favored to keep it, as Spann is -245, Brzeski +210. Despite Ryan Spann getting knocked out by Waldo Cortez Acosta back in March, I still like him at heavyweight. It's not as though he was a contender on the doorstep of the title in the 205-pound division. He had lost 3 straight by 3 different ways to 3 very different opponents, just kind of highlighting all the flaws in Ryan Spann. So I'm fine with him moving up to heavyweight. Kind of like his teammate Kennedy Zechikwu, He's a huge guy. He immediately slots in as one of the bigger heavyweights in the UFC. He weighed in at a not fat 250 pounds for the Cortez Acosta fight. And he looked generally okay in that fight until he got bopped. He's getting a soft bounce back here in the form of Brzeski. Just Brzeski is kind of a tweener. Of the two of these guys, he's the one that maybe should consider spending some time at light heavyweight. Like he's not as big as even the small heavyweights in the UFC. He's not very athletic. Why am I going to go down a list of all the things he's bad at? He's 1-5 in the UFC. That's it. And pretty much everybody that's tried to strike with him has caught him cleanly and hurt him badly. That's what it boils down to. If this fight drags on long enough, there's a possibility he can catch Spann in a moment of inattention and clock him, or they collide, there's a scramble, he takes Spann's back and pounds him out on the ground or something like that. But given Brzeski's defensive issues and given his not good durability, I think it's a matter of just Spann's going to knock him out before he gets knocked out. Give me Spann by first round knockout here. It'll be a fight that probably shows Brzeski the door, probably convinces Spann to stay at heavyweight, but doesn't really teach us a lot about either guy. Because again, if I were a betting man, I'm not comfortable taking Spann at minus 250 against anyone. He's just too vulnerable, too mistake prone. I don't think Brzeski's the guy to make him pay for it.
Oh man, this fight sucks. I mean, I'm getting less and less interested in heavyweight. I don't know the last time a heavyweight fight that I was really, really excited for. I will say this about Spann. He is still pretty long and lanky, even a heavyweight. He's an okay striker. He throws straight shots. He has some power. His left hook is his best punch. He has slowed a bit. His defense has gone to shit. He gets tagged way too much for my liking. He lacks head movement. I'm going to disagree with one thing. I don't think he looked good against Cortez Acosta at all. Like, I don't think he looked good early. He needs to realize that he's strictly a grappler. I mean, he's got 7 subs on his record. He's got a wicked good guillotine. I mean, he subbed, Iwan Kutalab with it. He subbed over in St. Peru. Just go right for it. Now he's not this like jiu-jitsu master. I mean, he got subbed by Anthony Smith, and that has not aged well. Brzeski, he has high output, so I'll give that. He wants to march down his foe, but he doesn't have much power, which is not good if you're a heavyweight. He has okay hand speed. He's got a solid jab. He likes to follow up with like a looping overhand left. He's got a good kicking game. I like his teep kicks, though he is open to be countered because it doesn't set him up a lot. He's very hittable because he lacks head movement. He doesn't tuck his chin. He loves to clinch battle. He tries to sneak in some takedowns, but I wouldn't categorize him as a wrestler. He's more likely one of these guys like catch a kick to get the fight done that way. Not bad on the ground. He's got solid ground and pound. He likes to advance position. He isn't a good defensive wrestler, though. He needs to improve his get-up game. He has gassed out in the past. He's also has durability issues as he's been knocked out a lot. So as far as prediction goes, Spann has had some bad losses in his career, but this would be the very bottom of the barrel if he loses. I'm out on Spann. Like I think he might be shot. I still say Brzeski makes a mistake. Maybe he tries to take Spann down, and I think he's going to get guillotine. I say Spann subs him in the first round.
Light heavyweights are up next at UFC 318 as Jimmy Crute tries to right the ship against Marcin Prachnio. Keith, we just talked about this last week. I don't know if the clocks and calendars run different south of the equator, but Jimmy Crute is 29 years old. I don't get it. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. Crute, 29-year-old Australian, 12-4-2 overall. He's 4-4-2 since joining the UFC out of season 2 of Dana White's Contender Series. He is winless in his last 5 fights, dating back almost 5 full years. Since knocking out Modestas Bukauskas in October of 2020, he has losses to Anthony Smith, lost to Jamal Hill, a draw with Alonzo Menafield, a loss to Menafield in their rematch, and then a loss to Rodolfo Bellato in his most recent cage appearance, which was back in February at UFC 312. So Crute, no longer the young up-and-comer, now the young one who's plummeting, looking to stop the bleeding against Prachnio. 37-year-old Pole, still training out of the Netherlands, I believe, 17-8 overall, 4-6 in the UFC. He has alternated wins and losses for the last 4 years or so. He's coming in off a loss. He fought almost exactly a year ago at UFC 304, getting tapped out in the third round by Modestas Bukauskas. So he's looking to right the ship as well. Not favored to do so, as Crute is minus 270, Prachnio plus 230 coming back. As I kind of alluded to, there's something about Crute that just feels like he should be 33 or 34. One, 29 is just really young for 205 pounds. Two, because he came to the UFC at age 22. Yeah, just we've kind of seen him grow up under the bright lights. Obviously, it's not ideal that he is on a 5-fight winless streak. But to me, more concerning than the losses and the weird draw with Menafield is just Crute himself. Crute, between fights, after fights, I mean, this is a guy who's like threatened to retire, then unretire. MMA is not a sport for those who are not committed. Like the paychecks ain't worth it. So
hold on a second. Except via John Jones, via Conor McGregor, and those guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, they can be uncommitted anytime they want. But
yes, they can be uncommitted anytime they want. But a rank and file fighter, especially at 205 pounds or at heavyweight, maybe not worth it. Having said that, if Crute is physically what he has been over the last couple of years, and if his heart, his mind are in it, this is a solid bounce back fight. Because Prachnio is 4-6 in the UFC, and the reality is worse than the numbers. Like his win over Khalil Roundtree 4.5 years ago is an enormous outlier. Outside of that, he's only had wins for the most part over the lowest of low-level fighters in the UFC. And despite the fact that he is a striker himself by training, by inclination, by preference, he has gotten lit up by a lot of guys in the UFC that are not lights-out strikers. Like, if you stand like a karate fighter, like Marcin Prachnio does, and I think he has himself announced as something like that, and you are very clearly a striker by preference, but you got lamped by like slow Mike Rodriguez and Sam Alvey, it is a victory in itself that you're still in the UFC at this point. And then people who've wanted to take him down, his last two losses, Vitor Petrino. I mean, that's one thing. Vitor Petrino is going to take the Marcin Prachnios of the ground of the world to the ground, advance to side control, choke him out. But to get arm triangled by Modestas Bukauskas was not a good look. Whatever Crute's problems are, he is a big, physical, athletic 205-pounder who is generally good at getting people to the floor and mauls them once they're there. So this feels like a pretty straightforward style matchup to me. Crute is going to be faster on the feet than Prachnio, even if Prachnio has kind of a weird, tricky stance and style. He doesn't have the kind of power that should knock Crute out or even be a serious deterrent if he catches him once or twice. Crute should be able to get Prachnio to the ground pretty easily, and I've seen nothing out of Prachnio that makes me think he's getting back up once he does. So a little nervous about this, again, just because Crute is on such a bad run and has sounded so conflicted about being a fighter. But give me Crute by first round submission here and make it look pretty easy.
So I got to correct something. So Crute did not lose his last fight. It was actually a draw against Bellato. I know the people in the chat. We talk for like 2.5 hours, and you say one thing wrong.
Oh, did I say he lost to Bellato? God,
yeah, they'll come for you. They'll be coming for you, Ben, if you say that wrong. Yeah, you talk about Crute being 29. I mean, the guy might as well be 39 with the amount of damage this guy has taken. I mean, Jamal Hill knocked him out bad back in the day, and now he's a solid athlete. His striking is so weird to me because sometimes he's this like pocket brawler, gets in there, does good damage. Also doesn't really work out for him though because he's too much of a stationary target and he doesn't move his head. And then other times he's this like distant striker who's throwing single strikes like he did in his last fight. And he does have some power. I mean, look at the guy. The guy's a big, strong guy. He's got a big kicking game. He loves high kicks. He also has good kicks up the middle. He likes teep kicks. He has been throwing a lot of naked leg kicks, which is why he's been getting countered. He's still better on the ground than he is on his feet. I'd say he's a decent wrestler, but I think his wrestling's overrated. They're gonna make it seem like he's this wizard on the ground, and he can shoot entries. And he's best when he's like someone's over pursuing him, and he's good getting a scramble. But he's not Bo Nicolle, and I haven't mentioned Bo Nicolle in a while. But they're gonna like he ducks his head sometimes. He kind of shoots just to get the leg. When he's at his best, we've had him where he's like get to the hips, following the hip, winning the head battle, cutting angles while doing all the little things the wrestlers do. It's been a while since we've seen that. Now, if he has to fight to the ground, he does look to advance position. He's got mean ground and pound. He has gassed in the past. Prachnio is not a guy that could probably push him in the grappling aspects. Prachnio, he's this taekwondo style striker that's constantly moving, making it hard to time him. He's constantly cutting angles and switching stances to get his opponents guessing. He throws shots with his hands hanging down like little like Stephen Thompson style. Not the best hand speed. Throws a lot of single strikes. Bit of like a point fighter. I always go back to that William Knight fight where he was just like landing one strike and the next, and he was just easily beating William Knight, and he just never stepped on the gas. Could have got a spectacular knockout. Due to his karate style, like I said, he's like a point fighter. He's not this big cracker. He does have like good kicks. He stopped Ike Villanueva with some mean body kicks. I mean, it is Ike Villanueva. I take that for what it's worth. He's got some good calf kicks. He will close the distance and grind the clinch. He will look for takedowns, but I wouldn't say he's a good offensive wrestler. His defensive wrestling has been inconsistent. I mean, it looked great against Devin Clark because he's one of the better wrestlers he's faced. But then I looked bad against Vitor Prachnio, Modestas Bagaxis, Felipe Lins. He has struggled to get off the bottom. He has been easy to sub. I'm also worried about his chin. He's been knocked out a bunch in the UFC. So I just said the last fight sucks. I think this fight sucks too. I know Crute is only 29, and I guess a draw against Bellato is probably a good thing for him at this point. But Crute just feels like a busted prospect. Now, Prachnio, he's a very low-level talent. So this would be an all-time low for Crute. I just said that about Ryan Spann. I said Spann would win this one. I'm not going to do it 2 in a row. I'm going to go the upset. I'm completely out on Crute. I hope he wins. Not that I have anything against his opponent, but I just want him to win because he's younger and he's been the promising guy. But I say Prachnio lands punches and kicks from distance. I say he moves, stick and moves. I think Crute throws a lot of single strikes. I say Prachnio wins a really ugly kickboxing match and he wins a split decision. Give me Prachnio in an upset.
Cool. I wonder if people overestimate Crute's wrestling because they look at the mullet and they're thinking like Sammy Brooks, Lincoln McElravy. They assume he must be from Iowa.
Yeah, those are good names right there.
Hey, if you go back to go back enough years for your amateur wrestling, and I can pull out some references. But it's the mullet that's stricken him. We move now to the welterweight division as Adam Fugitt welcomes Islam Dulatov to the UFC. Fugitt, the 36-year-old Oregonian, is 10-4 overall. He's 2-2 in the UFC, and he's coming into this fight off a win. He fought a little over a year ago at UFC on ESPN, Perez versus Tyra, where he picked up a split decision over Josh Quinlan. He will look to stay in the win column against the debuting Dulatov. 26-year-old fighting out of Germany, is 11-1 overall. He fought on the Contender Series back in October of last year, where he knocked out Valentin Antunes in the first round. His debut had been delayed by a couple of things. I think visa issues was one of them, but he steps into the cage here, and he steps in as a massive favorite. He is minus 600, Fugitt plus 450 coming back. Keith, Adam Fugitt is 2-2 in the UFC, and presumably on the first fight of a new deal that's exceeded expectations for a guy who seemed like an afterthought, just brought in on short notice to get slaughtered by Michael Morales. Here, he's going to be a huge underdog again. Is he going to shock the world? Or,
Yeah, I mean, I had a feeling that Dulatov was going to be a favorite, but jeez, I thought maybe a 2-1 favorite. Fugitt's not bad. Like you mentioned, he's got a pretty good record in the UFC. He's definitely a step up in competitions for Dulatov. I think he's a good test for anybody coming in the UFC who's got promise. Fugitt's a southpaw. He has a very high volume striker. He's got, even if he loses, he's going to make it dirty. He's going to march down his foe. He's constantly moving forward, taking the ground. He'll be tacking to the body. He has pretty good power. He's got a big kicking game. Go back to the Josh Quinlan fight where I think he threw more kicks than he threw punches. He said it before himself. He'll throw kicks just to hurt his opponent's arms, but force them to block. He's got good teep kicks. He puts takedown attempts in well with the striking. I think his offensive wrestling is just okay. He can overextend looking for takedowns. But if he gets to fight the round, he has 3 subs on his record, and he's got to work the whole fight. Dulatov's only 26 years. I like that. I really liked what I've seen of him. Well-rounded, southpaw, very athletic, great output on the feet, fast, accurate. He attacks with combinations, nice snap on his shots, really springs into his shots. I love his slip right hand. Got some nice power. Hit an incredible step-in elbow KO on the Contender Series to get the contract. Does keep his chin a little too high for my liking, but he can sneak in a takedown, though I wouldn't call him a wrestler, but he'll eventually take the fight to the ground. The clinch area is really good for him. He lands, he's a taller guy. He lands knees inside. He has a submission threat that gets the fight to the ground. So I've always liked Fugitt. I think he's an action fighter, but I'm also a fan of Dulatov. He looks really good. He looks like he's a prospect to watch. He's fast. He's accurate. He has power. I say he looks spectacular, even in a tough matchup against Fugitt. I say he swarms Fugitt. Fugitt throws a kick, he catches him with a good shot, then swans him with strikes. Give me Dulatov by first round TKO.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Dulatov looks good. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that he is an actual fashion model, magazine model back in Germany. He's one of those guys that could.
That's how you know, right? That's how you know.
That's exactly. Yeah, I have a whole stack of fashion magazines over there.
Somewhere. I thought when you lost all that weight, you get all those calls.
No, nobody's giving me those calls. He is, by all appearances, you look at his regional footage, you look at him on the Contender Series, he looks like the real deal, and not been as active as you might hope, but he's still just 26, and if this is what gets him out of modeling and into fighting 3 or 4 times a year, then so be it. As you mentioned, Fugitt, even as a kind of mid-roster UFC welterweight, is definitely a step up for Dulatov. I have said something similar to this about other debuting fighters in the UFC. I remember when Sergey Spivak debuted, and 2 of his last 3 fights had been against Tony Lopez and Travis Fulton. Dulatov is coming into this fight, and a year and a half ago, he fought Will Chope. I think Will Chope is awesome, but Will Chope has also spent most of the last 10 years over in Thailand in Full Metal Dojo, fighting 2 midgets standing on each other's shoulders. If he's one of the fights that got you onto the Contender Series, you may not be ready for prime time, but I think Dulatov is the exception to that. He's just the combination of physical tools he has. And you mentioned he's a tall guy with a good wingspan. He's fast, powerful. He's a fluid athlete. Fugitt is more tested against this level of competition. And I think Dulatov's streak of first 3 minutes finishes is going to come to an end here. but I do think Dulatov is going to overwhelm Fugitt. He's going to be too big, too fast, too strong, and kind of too comfortable everywhere. What was your pick for Dulatov?
I picked him first round knockout.
I think this goes to the second round, but I think Dulatov is in the driver's seat the whole way. I'll take Dulatov by second round TKO. We head next to the middleweight division as Ateba Gautier faces off against Robert Valentin. Gautier, the 23-year-old Cameroonian training out of the UK, is 7-1 overall. He's 1-0 since joining the UFC out of Season 8 of Dana White's Contender Series. He made his UFC debut back in March at UFC on ESPN Moreno vs. Urseg, where he knocked out Jose Medina in the first round. He will look to make it 2 in a row to start off his UFC run at the expense of Valentin, who is still looking for his first UFC win. 30-year-old from Switzerland is 10-5 with 1 no contest overall. He's 0-2 in the UFC. He fought most recently back in April, where he dropped a split decision to Torres Finney. So still looking for his first octagon win, not favored to get it, to say the least. Gautier minus 550 as your favorite, Valentin plus 400 as the underdog. I'm not absolutely ready to declare Ateba Gautier the real deal. I mean, he looks like it. He looks like a sensational MMA kickboxer on the scale at an open workout, certainly in his regional fights so far on the Contender Series in his first UFC bout. Like, he looks like the real deal, but a 23-year-old, just 8 career fights, and he hasn't really faced a good striker yet. So who knows? But he's a huge guy for the weight class, like 6'4", long wingspan, manages range well. Again, I don't think he's faced many people that have been able to put him on the back foot, been able to really threaten him with power or with credible takedown attempts. So we don't know. But I mean, right now he has kind of that, looks a bit like Carlos Ulberg or even Alex Pereira. Not saying he's the next of either one of those, but just as a huge framed kickboxer with massive power, that's kind of how, like, he scans right now. Valentin, it's a bummer that Valentin is 0-2 in the UFC, because there are middleweights in the UFC that he can beat, but this is a bad matchup for him, I think. He's a tall, lanky guy himself, but he doesn't have very good footwork. His hand speed isn't great. He doesn't have a ton of power. He's actually at his best when he can get all the way inside, do some damage there, get his opponents on the ground where he can go to work there. But I don't think he's going to get a chance to do any of that against Gautier. We get some UFC cards that are full of wide betting lines, but they just turn into these long decision fest slogs anyway. This undercard to me does not have that feel. I have the feeling that it's going to be an ultra violent undercard, and this is one more. I think Valentin is going to get clipped repeatedly by Gautier trying to navigate the range, get into his more comfortable range, and I think he's going to get blasted. I think Gautier is going to start kicking his legs, kick him to the body, catch him with straight punches coming in. I think he knocks Valentin out in the first round.
Oh man, this fight. What's weird? You seem higher on Valentin than I am, but I think I give him a better shot. I think I give him a better shot to win than you do. So, Valentin, I mean, he's bad on the feet. He'll throw some silly spinning attacks. I mean, he did get that elbow KO on Tough, but everything else he's thrown has looked ugly. Now he'll throw a lot of kicks, but defensively he keeps his chin really high in the air. He backs straight up to the cage when pressured. All his striking to set up his entries, and he wants to get the fight down. The problem is he's a jiu-jitsu guy. He is not a wrestler. His wrestling is bad. No, he is a good grappler if he can get the fight to the ground. He's got good top pressure. He might have the worst takedown defense I've seen. I mean, you saw his last fight, like how easy it was to get taken down. He also plays BJJ off his back way too much. Now, Gautier, what I like about him obviously is he's 23 years old. He's an insane athlete. I mean, absolutely ripped. He's a good striker. He moves well with good footwork, very relaxed and poised, accurate. He's got some big power, and he's not even in his power years yet. I like his step and knees. He throws kicks, but he doesn't really set them up. He also isn't a wrestler at all, and his takedown defense needs big improvement. He's got a poor get-up game too if you take him down, and he's not a submission threat at all. So I am not high on Valentin at all. That said, I'm going to disagree on one thing. I actually think this is the type of guy he could pull a big upset because he should have a massive advantage in one area. If he can get the fight to the ground, and that's a huge F because he's not a good wrestler. If he gets the fight to the ground, he could win. Now, Gautier has like way higher upside. If Gautier was 33, I would probably pick Valentin. Just due to his age, I can see dramatic improvement in takedown defense. And he doesn't have to have great takedown defense to stop takedowns from Valentin. I mean, Valentin's a big guy too. You could like body lock him or something like that. But I would stay away from the betting line just because of what Valentin can do if he gets the fight to the ground. But I'm going to say that Gautier knows that. I think he probably works on his takedown defense. I say he stuffs some of Valentin's entries and then just tees off on him. I say he catches Valentin's chin. I say he puts him away in the second round.
The never-ending undercard of UFC 318 drags on with a welterweight contest between Francisco Prado and Nikolay Veretennikov. Prado, the 23-year-old Argentinian, is 12-3 overall. He's 1-3 in the UFC. He's 0-1 at welterweight. He started in the UFC as a lightweight, went 1-2 in his first 3 fights, moved up to welterweight to face Jake Matthews at UFC 312 back in February, and came out on the wrong end of a unanimous decision. He will look to right his ship in his new weight class at the expense of Veretennikov. 35-year-old from Kazakhstan, though he has lived and trained in the U.S. for quite a few years now. 12-6 overall, 0-2 since joining the UFC as a veteran of Dana White's Contender Series. He fought Michael Morales on season 5, lost, went back and won a few more fights in Fury, among other places, before getting the call up last summer. He dropped a split decision to Danny Barlow in his UFC debut. Then served to welcome Austin Vanderford to the UFC this February at UFC Fight Night Cejudo versus Song. It was at a planned 175-pound catch weight, and Vanderford knocked him out in the second round. So Veretennikov still looking for his first win in the UFC. Prado still looking for his first win at welterweight. Prado is your slight favorite. He's out there around minus 150 or so. Veretennikov plus 125 coming back. Keith, in a division as deep as the UFC's welterweight division, I'm not going to bother asking if you think either of these guys is a future contender, but who gets his first win at welterweight in the UFC on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, so there's things I do like about Prado. I mean, first of all, the guy's, was he 23, 24? Like, he's super young.
23, yeah.
Yeah, he's 23. He is small for welterweight. But if he moves down, he'll probably have to come back up to welterweight anyways, being that he's only 23. He'll probably fill out more. So for the meantime, he's going to be a little smaller. He's had a tough journey in the UFC because he's faced some really good competition. But, yeah, he's well-rounded. He's a pressure fighter. He's got some clean boxing. He'll throw out the left hook a little too much. Like, he kind of left hook happy, though. But he has power, and he really hasn't even reached his power years yet. He really springs into his shots. He throws some hard kicks. He likes some spinning attacks. He's got a big kicking game. He has good footwork. He does a lot of like L-step in. He does need to improve his head movement, though. He's a sneaky wrestler. He's got some good entries. He likes to grab his foe and slam him there. He needs to improve his takedown defense, though. He also needs to improve his get-up game. If he ends up on top, he has good ground and pound. He has a submission threat. He has 6 subs on his record. He almost caught a Kimura on Jamie Malarkey. Cardio might be an issue, though, as he has gassed out a little bit in fights. Nicolle, he's a minus athlete. He's kind of flat-footed on the feet, plodding. He's an okay boxer. He's pretty patient, though. He kind of just waits for his moments, throws straight strikes, has a He has a really good straight right. That's his best thing. He has a nice left hook. He has good power. He's an average offensive wrestler. He's a weak defensive wrestler and isn't much of a submission threat. So, yeah, this is lower level UFC, which is probably going to surprise people what my prediction is. I like Prado here. He's younger. I think he hits harder, which is surprising considering Nikolay has 9 knockouts. But being that Prado, I've seen him land some hard shots, and he's only 23. He's definitely faster on the feet. He definitely has better output. I think he's the better wrestler. What'd you say the betting line was?
Prado was minus 150. Veretennikov around plus 120, plus 125.
Yeah, I think Prado should be a bigger favorite. I think he dominates. I think it's going to be harder to figure out whether he wins by KO or submission. I'm going to say he subs him. I'm going to say Prado gets the fight to the ground, and I'm going to say he catches submission. I'm so confident. I'm locking this fight as my lock of the night. Give me Prado lock of the night.
Which round?
Second round. I'm not locking that. If Prado wins.
Yeah, I mean, I had a front row seat, literally, in a lot of cases, to Nikolay Veretenikov's rise as a regional prospect. He came over from Kazakhstan, started training in Texas.
You also had a front row seat for that German guy's modeling career too. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. And he came over from Kazakhstan, started training in Texas, started competing in Fury and LFA, won 7 or 8 fights in a row to get a spot on the Contender Series. And honestly, he looked like the truth. He was a little older than you would want. Like, I remember him turning 30, then 31, and still not getting the call up. But he came across, I mean, not a blinding athlete, but smooth enough, strong as an ox, like really good power. And he threw a good diversity of strikes. For a guy that clearly preferred to box, he had like good step in knees. He had a good kicking game that he would employ just with really good timing. Just he'd get his opponent used to the boxing, expecting the boxing, and then just go upstairs with a kick or hit him with like a real good body kick once their guard started to creep up. He seems to either he was never as good as I thought, which I mean that's possible, or he just started to age really, really quickly. But there's no shame in losing to Michael Morales like he did on the Contender Series, but that was almost 4 years ago at this point. And even his wins since then, he's just looked a little stiffer and slower. Since getting called up to the UFC, he's not looked great. And yeah, I'm with you. Veretennikov just never quite made the splash that I thought he was going to at the UFC level. And while Prado is 1-3 in the UFC and still obviously very much a work in progress, arguably not ready for this level yet, considering the way he's trending and the way Veretennikov is trending, I'm with you, at least in that Prado wins and makes it look surprisingly easier than the line would seem to indicate. I'll go with Prado by decision here, but if he were to submit or knock out Veretennikov in the second half of the fight, that wouldn't shock me either. Middleweights are up next at UFC 318 as Marvin Vettori and Brendan Allen are both trying to get back on track and snap losing streaks. Vettori, the 31-year-old Italian by way of Southern California, is 19-8-1 overall. He's 9-6-1 in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He fought most recently back in March, where he dropped a unanimous decision to Roman Dolidze in a rematch of their first meeting, which was a little over 2 years ago. Prior to that, Vettori lost a unanimous decision to Cannonier. That goes all the way back to 2023. Vettori had a over year-long layoff in between, but here he's back in the cage just 4 months later, looking to get back in the win column against Allen. Allen, 29-year-old, training out of South Florida, but a native Louisianan. He's 24-7 overall. He's 12-4 in the UFC, and he is on a 2-fight losing streak as well. He fought Nasruddin Imavov last September and lost a unanimous decision. That snapped a 7-fight win streak for him. He then came back this February at UFC Fight Night Cejudo versus Song and lost a unanimous decision to Anthony Hernandez. So Allen, the momentum of that 7-fight win streak long gone. He's looking to start up a new one here. He is favored to do so. Allen is minus 240, Vettori plus 195 as your underdog. Keith, these are two guys that have at least flirted with contention. They've both been top 10 fighters, at least briefly. Vettori was for a long time. Nonetheless, Allen's a huge favorite here. Are you feeling that? How do you think this fight looks on Saturday?
What'd you say the line was? You said Allen's a big favorite. What was it?
Allen's minus 240. Vettori plus 195.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Vettori hasn't won in a long time, so I can see that's why Allen is a big favorite. But at their peak, they both were kind of the same range, so that's why I'm surprised. You know, if they fought a year ago, I don't know if he would have been that big of a favorite. Vettori, you know, what we've seen of him, he's a pressure striker. Though his last fight, he didn't fight with that much pressure. He likes to throw it out in close quarters. He throws some hard hooks. He tries to end the fight with every single shot. He has a good left hook, but he looks for a little too much. His best work is when he goes to the bar. When he goes to the body, he's got some good body punching. He has some good power. Not the power puncher that they'll make you believe he is. He avoids strikes with some solid head movement. He also shoulder rolls. He like very boxing style. He does hang his hands a little low. He can close the distance and wear his opponent in the clinch. He's not a bad wrestler. You don't, when we think of Marvin, you don't think of wrestler, but he's not bad. He's got some underrated entries, underrated wrestling game altogether. He's got a nice top game. He gets on top. He isn't a submission threat. And a big thing I'm worried about is his cardio. I mean, it didn't look great in his last fight against Roman Dolidze. I mean, it was a 5-round fight and went the whole way. So, Brendan Allen, I mean, you're saying he's this like massive favorite. He looked terrible against Nassourdine Imavov in his last fight. Now, good. Brendan Allen is a high output.
Actually, the Hernandez fight was the one after that, but I agree that he did not look good.
I'm sorry. Hernandez fight. Yeah, even worse. yeah, even worse. Yeah, so that's 2 fights in a row that he's looked really, really bad. I mean, I give it a pass for Anthony Hernandez. I mean, Hernandez is fucking good. I mean, yeah. Can we pause for a second and talk about Anthony Hernandez? I'm not saying he's going to win a UFC title, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. We were the first ones saying that about him when it's starting to get people starting to jump on board with the Anthony Hernandez hype train, but we were on it way before anybody else was. So, yeah. I love that guy, and so I'll give Brendan Allen a pass for that. Just Anthony Hernandez is super good. But going back, what I want to mention is how bad he looked against Imavov. He is a high output striker. He's a builder that gets stronger as the fight goes on. He's a Muay Thai striker. He takes a lot of damage though because he stands super tall. He's one of these guys. He's willing to eat a shot and kind of continue to march forward and land. But he's been hurt in a bunch of fights and hurt a lot lately. He does have a good straight right. You know what? Some of it that why he's got hurt, I think it would go back to that war he had with Chris Curtis. Like those fights take a lot out of you. So that's just a side note. He's got a good straight right, though he can overextend on his shot sometimes. He has some power. I mean, he's a big guy. He likes some step-in elbows. He likes some step-in knees. He's got a big kicking game, kicks to all areas of the body, some of the best calf kicks that are out there. He had some success against Sean Strickland with just kicks. He likes to wrestle, but he will shoot with takedowns with his head straight down. Not your traditional explosive wrestler. He's more of a kind of get a scramble going and be slippery enough to end up on top. Very funk style wrestling. He is a strong grappler if he gets the fight down, but he's a weak defensive wrestler. If he's on top, he has no issues installing on top. He is a BJJ practitioner. He likes to move to a better position. He's got some good back takes, but he struggled to get off the bottom against Imavov and Hernandez. I think both guys have looked really bad recently. I mean, it's been a long time since Vettori won, but both fighters look kind of shot to me. So I'm staying away. I have no confidence in either guy in this fight. I understand that Allen will look for takedowns. I think he's going to have a harder time grappling with Vettori than he thinks. Vettori's not a bad grappler. And if he shoots with his head down and Vettori ends up on top, he's going to be put in some compromised positions, and Vettori can win those exchanges. And I'm going to say he does. I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to go. I don't think many people have taken Vettori. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Vettori. I think both guys have their moments. I'm going to say Vettori wins the grappling. Give me Vettori by split decision in a really close fight.
I want to take Vettori in the upset so badly for all the reasons you mentioned. Just you came right out and said it. Neither of these guys has looked great recently, and that's not good news for fighters who are 31 in the case of Vettori and still just 29 in the case of Allen, respectively. You would have hoped that they had some more useful lifespan, but yeah, Vettori, between having a lengthy injury layoff and just not looking like himself, just it makes me wonder if even Vettori is everything you mentioned. He's not as hard a hitter as, I mean, he has decent power, but he's not as hard a hitter as you would expect from just looking at him and from the way the UFC booth will talk about him. I mean, he's built like Bruno Ferreira, but he doesn't knock people out like Bruno Ferreira. Better wrestler than you would think. I just call me, overly patriotic about it, but I think that's just what happens when you take a European prospect with good physical tools and you have him start training in the US in his early 20s instead of his early 30s. Like, he came to King's MMA real early in his career, and I think that's probably why he's one of the better wrestlers from continental Europe in MMA. Allen, I still draw the same comparison for him. He just kind of reminds me in a lot of ways of Luke Rockhold, where his striking has come along, but he was a kicker before a full-on striker. He's at his best grappling, but not always the kind of wrestler who can bring fights to the ground in the time, place, situation of his choosing. And the Rockhold comparison even continues to hold true, because when Rockhold's durability started to slip, it kind of started to slip all at once. And that's what I'm worried is happening to Allen. And it would be a shame for that to happen to someone with his skill set, who's still not even 30 years old. I am taking Allen in this one. I'm not minus 240 confident in it. I can see Vettori definitely sprawling and brawling his way to kind of an ugly decision win and a pretty significant upset. But I'm going with Vettori not even having that much left. Give me Allen to win 2 rounds out of 3 in a fight that maybe doesn't raise either guy's stock. But if he gets his hand raised at the end, I think the New Orleans crowd is going to go bananas. Next up at UFC 318, and at least as the card is constituted as of the beginning of fight week, the top prelim is a men's bantamweight matchup between Kyler Phillips and Vinicius Oliveira. Phillips, the 30-year-old fighting out of Arizona, is 12-3 overall. He is 7-3 since joining the UFC out of season 1 of Dana White's Contender Series. He did lose his last time out. He fought last October at UFC Fight Night Hernandez versus Pereira, where he dropped a unanimous decision to Rob Font. That snapped a 3-fight win streak for him. He will look to start up a new one here at the expense of Oliveira. 29-year-old Brazilian is 22-3 overall. He is a perfect 3-0 since joining the UFC out of season 7 of Dana White's Contender Series. He's already fought once this year. It was back in February at UFC Fight Night Adesanya versus Imavov, where he won a unanimous decision over Said Nurmagomedov. So he'll be looking for his 4th straight win in the UFC, and honestly, to make his way into the fringes of the rankings, if he's not there already in the UFC's own rankings. He is moderately favored to do so. Oliveira is minus 180, Phillips plus 150. Keith, I don't know about you, but for me, Vinicius Oliveira kind of came out of nowhere. He seemed like a solid but not lights out Brazilian prospect. And then he beat Ricky Simon and Said Nurmagomedov in back-to-back bouts. He's fighting Kyler Phillips in the top prelim of, a pay-per-view, whether it's a great one or not. This guy's looking at a top 10 opponent if he gets past Phillips. Are you surprised? Do you think he gets it done?
Yeah, it's funny because he had like spectacular moments on the Contender Series, but I was just like, his style is like it's not gonna translate well, and it really has. And I don't know if Phillips is a step up in competition, if it's a step down, if it's lateral. Like I'm really trying to figure it out. But I will
It's a
say,
very different matchup than Said
yeah,
Nurmagomedov and Ricky Simon.
yeah, that's probably what it is. They are much. I mean, he's so much more exciting. I mean, Phillips is such an elite athlete. Um, but the way he's constantly moving. He's got good footwork. He's cutting angles. He's a slip and rip striker with some good head movement. He has very fast hands. Isn't as technical as you think for someone. He's winning with output. He throws big combinations. He has a really good kicking game. I love his calf kicks. He uses athletic, movement where you see like flying knees and spinning attacks. He mixes punches and kicks together well. A lot of variety in his striking. Great dexterity in his legs. Can land kicks really anywhere. He's we think of Phillips with all this spectacular stuff on the feet. He can grapple too. He's a decent wrestler. I mean, he likes, he can shoot from the outside or he can get body lock takedowns. Good at winning scrambles. He moves to better position on the ground. He's got a good get-up game. He has gassed in the past, and he fades late. He fades late in fights due to explosive movement, and if he's getting pressured, Rob Font had one of the best performances of his recently of his career by just pressuring him, and I don't think. Swarming the kicker and something. And I think it also like surprised Phillips because that's never been Rob Font's game. So I think that was a little surprise factor. Like he didn't have a, plan B if Rob Font does this. Now, Oliveira, I mean, like you said, this dude is much better than I originally thought. He fights at an insane pace and he's fun. Unorthodox fighter, throws some really weird angles, can fight out of both stances. I mean, he'd be very wild. He has massive power. He's got 16 TKOs. I mean, he'll load up on every fight. He's cleaned it up a little bit. Like, he's cleaned it up when he first showed up in the UFC. I mean, he was trying to knock your block off with every single blow, but he wouldn't tire himself out doing it, which is crazy. He has a big kicking game, throws some mean body kicks, a lot of calf kicks, throws out some spinning attacks, flying attacks. I mean, his flying KO of Bernardo Sopaj is one of the scariest ones I've ever seen. Now, because of his style, he eats a lot of shots. I mean, he hangs his hands low. He's willing to eat a shot to land one of his own. Every time he was hit by Ricky Simon, he would come right back with a big combination. Like, he didn't even phase him. I always knew that he was a decent wrestler, but he showed he can really wrestle. Surprised the hell out of me the way how he out wrestles Said Nurmagomedov, who I've said this before. His wrestling is overrated. Because of the last name Nurmagomedov, but it's still a pretty impressive feat to get takedowns. He only has 2 subs on his record, so that I wish that was something like if he's got to wrestle, he gets some subs. But if you try to take him down, he's shown some really strong takedowns. Nurmagomedov couldn't take him down. Ricky Simon couldn't take him down. When he has been taken down, he just gives up his back, gets right up. So he will. I said he won't slow down, and that's not true. He will slow down, but all his movement, all his like berserker pace, and throwing huge things, he'll gas that out, but his opponent will gas out even more. So, if you asked me a year ago, I would have been super confident in Phillips. However, he hates pressure, and Oliveira is going to pressure him more than anybody he's ever fought. He's going to make him work. Like I said, a year and a half ago, I'd be picking Phillips. I think the beginning is going to be close, but I think Oliveira's pressure is going to slowly catch up to Phillips. All that movement is going to start slowing down, and I think Oliveira is going to take over. Phillips is super tough and he's super wiry. I don't know if Oliveira will get a stoppage, so I'll say Oliveira just outworks and wins the last 2 rounds. Give me Oliveira by decision.
Yeah, this is an exciting fight. It's an exciting fight.
This is a good one. I backed the card.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I backed the card, but this is a really fun one.
Well, there's 14 fights on the card. If we can only name 3 or 4 good ones, it's fair to bash the card.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Yeah, Phillips, his last outing against Font was concerning for a couple of reasons. One, because Font looked so incredible after I think a lot of people assume Font was done as any sort of even fringe contender, but he looked great. And like you said, he looked great with a game plan, a new wrinkle clearly calculated to give Phillips problems, and it worked. The other surprising part of it was once Font really got that going, Phillips tried turning to his wrestling, and Font, despite normally not having great takedown defense, was able to stay upright enough to win the last 2 rounds. So, I mean, that says something for him. I think Phillips is better than he looked in the Font fight. Also, he's still young. He's just 30 years old. He's at a great camp. He's at a camp with coaches and sparring partners that can correct those problems. So I don't think we've necessarily seen a hole in Kyler Phillips' armor forever. But if he doesn't like pressure, as you said, Vinicius Oliveira is a whole other thing to deal with. I like how you pointed out that he goes a million miles an hour and he throws everything super hard and he slows down, but he never just completely gasses out and dies. You mentioned the Bernardo Sopai flying knee knockout, which was one of the most brutal knockouts of last year. And that was with like 30 seconds left in the 3rd round. So he slows down almost like Yoel Romero, where he's still throwing techniques that will just kill an ox, just not as many of them. He's having to wait longer in between them. Until he gets to that point, it's like a bantamweight Michel Pereira, just this tornado of wild techniques coming at you. Certainly his wrestling, both offensively and defensively, has been a pleasant surprise. Yeah, you said it perfectly. A year ago, even after, which, I mean, that even then would have been after Oliveira's wins over Sopai and Ricky Simon, I would have been more comfortable picking Phillips, but Oliveira passed another tough test, and Phillips had a loss that raises some question marks. I'm with you. Give me Oliveira by decision, but hopefully, and I predict, it's going to be a fantastic fight that does not really diminish either guy's stock very much. The 5-fight main card of UFC 318 begins with a lightweight matchup between Michael Johnson and Daniel Zellhuber. Johnson, the 39-year-old Kill Cliff FC product, 23-19 overall. He is 15-15 since joining the UFC out of season 12 of The Ultimate Fighter. He has been one of the most maddeningly inconsistent fighters in the UFC for a decade plus now, but he is on a 2-fight win streak coming into this bout. He fought most recently in December at UFC on ESPN Covington versus Buckley, the UFC's last card of last year, where he knocked out Otman Azatar in the 2nd round. Prior to that, you have to go all the way back to last February, where he picked up a unanimous decision over Darius Flowers. So Johnson looking for his first 3-fight win streak in the UFC. Well, let me just put it this way. The last time he won 3 straight fights in the UFC, the victims were Joe Lozon, Gleison Tebow, and Melvin Guillard. I'm not saying it's a long time, but Joe Lozon, Gleison Tebow, and Melvin Guillard.
Yeah.
So,
Good
yeah,
Lord.
that would be 2013, 2014. Johnson, if he wants to put together that 3-fight win streak, he's going to have to get past the Golden Boy. Daniel Zellhuber, 26-year-old Mexican, now training out of Las Vegas, 15-2 overall, 3-2 since joining the UFC out of season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series. He carried a 3-fight win streak into his last cage appearance at Noche UFC last September, but came out on the wrong end of a split decision against Esteban Rubivics. So he'll be looking to get back in the win column here. He is comfortably favored to do so. Zellhuber, one of the biggest favorites on the card, minus 600. Johnson is plus 425 as your underdog. It's been a fun story that Michael Johnson saved his job, got back to 500 in the UFC. We've been covering Michael Johnson's fights for a long time, obviously, ever since we've been doing this show together. I've always had a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for him, but I fully assumed he'd be gone by now, because at his best, he would, at his best, he might be the most inconsistent fighter in the history of high level MMA. When you stack up his best wins against his worst losses, it's ridiculous. It's unbelievable. So, but over the last 3 or 4 years, the highs weren't as high as they used to be because he started to slip. The hand speed started to go. The impressive head movements, footwork on defense started to go. The durability definitely started to go. He started to get hurt really bad by individual shots that he used to be able to kind of just roll with and shake off. He got back in the win column, but Darius Flowers and Atman Azaitar neither of them are very good. Neither of them appear to be UFC material in the long term. Zellhuber does. And beyond that, Zellhuber looks like a future contender. For as long as he can keep making 155 pounds, he's going to be a problem. He's huge for the weight class. He's over 6 feet tall, long reach, uses it well, long, straight jab. He'll throw push kicks straight up the middle. Nice kicking game. For a really tall guy with long legs who's a striker by preference, solid wrestler, which all the good things about Zellhuber kind of shut off Johnson's narrow routes to victory, because Johnson's always been a little bit better wrestler than he gets credit for, always a little underused. People will sleep on it, and then once every 4 fights, he'll just shoot a beautiful reactive double and take somebody down. I don't think that's open for him against Zellhuber. Zellhuber, despite being big, athletic, good power, like a fast guy on his feet, has occasional defensive lapses, but Johnson has rarely been a fighter who clocks his opponents with one big shot. He's always been more of a slick boxer who would pour it on once people were frustrated and getting beat up by getting outboxed for a whole fight. Yeah, I started analyzing this fight from the opposite proposal. How does the upset look if it happens? I don't really see any plausible way to the upset here for Johnson. He's not going to outlast Zellhuber. I don't even think he's going to outbox him. He doesn't have more power. Johnson remains pretty durable. I mean, Diego Ferreira cold cocked him with one punch, but Ferreira hits super, super hard, and he swings much harder than Zellhuber does. Zellhuber's much more of kind of a poised boxer, but I think Johnson just gets wrecked for 3 rounds. Give me Zellhuber in a lopsided decision. I wouldn't be shocked to see a 10-8 round in there.
Yeah, this is a very interesting matchup. When I first looked at the card, so what I always do is I've said this before, I write down the fights and then I kind of set an order of how I want to look into people. Like Kevin Holland was like, all right, we've broken down Kevin Holland a million times. I'm not looking into him. If I do get to him, I really did my research this week. So anyways, I was looking at it, and originally they had Johnson Zellhuber as the co-main event, and I was like, no way could that possibly be the co-main event. You know what's funny? You know how we talked about guys getting a softball win for their retirement fight? Michael Johnson would have made sense for Justin Poirier.
Oh yeah,
being that he got
revenge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Got a revenge. You got knocked out. You could sell it. Any UFC could sell it. Oh, the guy's got, I don't know how many wins in the UFC, but he's got 15 wins, 18 wins, whatever it is. He's got 30 fights in the UFC. He's knocked out all those guys you said, and we could sell it that way. And keep showing the knockout of, I've been waiting for this fight for 12 years, whatever it was. But of course, Dustin Poirier asked for Max Holloway instead. Michael Johnson. I mean, this little resurgence from him, that's cool. That's good. I'm happy it's happening for him. But he's a southpaw. He likes to box. He still has plus hand speed. I'll give him that. He's always throwing tight, straight shots. He's been aiming for the body a lot, which is good. He has some power, but you mentioned it not the power punch of the broadcast with 10 that he is. It's been a really long time. Yeah, I know he recently got a knockout, but still, it's not his game. He can wrestle, but he doesn't wrestle enough, though he's been wrestling a lot more lately, which I said last time, which is surprising that someone is usually the guys wrestle early and then they strike late, not the other way, in their career, not the other way around. And it's like Michael Johnson wrestling now is like what? So I'm not a techie person. I mean, anybody who's watched the shows know that Ben's a techie guy. I'm not. I'm the ultimate boomer. And my wife did a training on Chat GPT through her school on AI and Chat GPT and all this stuff. And then she started like show me the stuff you can do and just like do this, and it just magically does it. And I'm like, holy shit. And I think I've used Chat GPT like 15 times today. Just like, that's like Michael, like I just learned this new thing. That's like Michael Johnson. Like, oh, I can wrestle? Like that's allowed in MMA? So he always has had really good takedown defense though. It's always been something that's hard to take Michael Johnson down. He isn't a grappler though. That's been like an Achilles heel. He's been subbed a lot. He's been subbed 9 times. Obviously, he's been in the UFC so long that he's taken a lot of damage. I mean, his chin and his age can just suddenly between the damage and the chin. Sorry, I'm saying that wrong because of the. I should Chat GPT my answer right now, because of the damage he's taken. And because of his age, like suddenly everything could fall apart for him. That's what I meant to say. Now, Zellhuber is only 26. I mean, such a contrast between these two guys. I love it. This guy's long and lengthy. He's a great distance striker. Uses footwork to keep his range. I've said it before. He can strike while backpedaling, which is super impressive. Like that is like the rarest of traits. He sets up shots well with feints. He can counter. He counters his opponent's attacks so well. He's got quick hands. He's got a nice crisp jab, especially to keep his range. He works the body when he comes inside. He looks for slicing elbows when his opponent comes inside. He's got great power, and it really just kind of starting to enter those power years. He avoids shots with shoulder rolls, which works effectively and deflects shots, but I've always said this before, he never looks good, especially in MMA, to the judges. That I'm concerned about that. He actually ate a lot of shots in that Christos Giagos fight, more than I want someone that I think could be an upper echelon guy take. He brawls a little too much, which he shouldn't, because he should be keeping his distance, but he's fun. And but if I was his coach, I'd be like, what are you doing? And because of that, he's actually been hurt in fights that he easily wins. His kicks are incredible. I mean, he's got some of the best kicks in all the UFC. And he kicks every area of the body. He tosses up head kicks so quick. He'll throw a question mark kick up there. He works the calf so well. Though sometimes he will throw calf kicks without a setup, so that is where Johnson can counter him. If he closes the distance, he can grind in the clinch. He loves judo throws. If he's on top, mean ground and pound, and he has a few subs on his record. So as far as prediction goes, I think this is a horrendous mismatch. I think Johnson is going to get massacred. I can't see Johnson win. Like you talked about how you always like reverse engineer how something happens. Yeah, his opportunity is small. I almost feel like he has to wrestle, and even that I think he won't be able to do for 15 minutes, or he's going to have to like go back in the time machine and catch that knockout blow. I just don't see it happen. I think Zellhuber just picks him apart from range. I think he just kicks his legs over and over and over again. And I'm going to go bold. I'm going to say he keeps kicking his legs and then eventually throws one high to the head and catches Johnson. Johnson, it'll be a hell of a highlight for Zellhuber to knock out a guy like Johnson. I say he's gone. Give me Zellhuber by second round knock kick by high kick.
Featherweights are up next on the UFC 318 main card as Dan Ige faces off against Patricio Pitbull. Ige, the 33-year-old Hawaiian by way of Las Vegas, is 19-9 overall. He's 11-8 since joining the UFC out of the very first season of Dana White's Contender Series. He's coming into this fight off a win. He fought at UFC 314 back in April, where he knocked out Sean Woodson in the third round. That snapped a 2-fight losing streak for him against Laron Murphy, and in his heroic same-day appearance against Diego Lopez almost exactly a year ago. But nonetheless, Ige back in the win column, looking to make it 2 in a row here against Patricio Pitbull, who is still looking for his first UFC win. Patricio, born Freire, goes by Pitbull, 38-year-old Brazilian, 36-8 overall, 0-1 in the UFC. He left Bellator MMA after the PFL acquisition as absolutely Bellator's greatest ever homegrown star and homegrown talent. He made his UFC debut at that very same UFC 314 card against Yair Rodriguez, coming up on the wrong end of a unanimous decision. So Pitbull still looking to prove that he is/was one of the best featherweights in the world, proving that at age 38, he still has something to offer the division. He is not favored to get it done, however. Ige is minus 175. Pitbull plus 145 as your underdog. Man. Obviously, among a certain cadre of fans, and it's a large cadre of fans. I mean, if we're being honest, there are a lot more UFC fans in the world than there are MMA fans. Like, you know,
there's nobody who's an MMA. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody somewhere, but there's nobody who's an MMA fan and not a fan of the UFC.
Right, but there are plenty of people who are fans of the UFC and are either just literally not aware of what happens outside of the UFC, or just think it's irrelevant until those fighters make it to the UFC. So there's a certain group of fans that were already chuckling when Pitbull looked kind of flat and ineffectual against Yair Rodriguez, if we're being honest, and are ready to just laugh him out of the room if he gets smoked by Dan Ige. So he's never that good. Bellator sucks.
Which would absolutely suck.
That would suck because...
And we love Dan Ige. He's the fucking man.
He is.
But yeah.
Dan Ige is, I mean, he's a made man for life. The Diego Lopez fight, that's legendary. I am more sure.
They should put that in the Hall of Fame.
No,
it wasn't about the greatest fight, but they should put that as a moment for what happened.
That's what I was about to say. I am more sure that will make it into the UFC Hall of Fame fight wing than any fight that's not currently in there. Because one, it was a great moment. You and I were on the recap for that, and we were both just throwing our hands up. We were both like, we've been fans of this sport for almost 30 years, and we've never seen this before. But on top of it, if you're being cynical, that also encourages the next fighter 5 years down the road to do that same kind of thing to save the UFC's biscuits. It's something that costs the UFC nothing and encourages a fighter, you know, making 30 and 30 to, you know, potentially hamstring his career that way. So for all those reasons, anyway, not to get too far off topic, but I don't care. I don't care if Dan Ige smokes Patricio Pitbull and then they give Pitbull some featherweight fresh out of the Contender Series and he loses a shitty decision to him and then he's out of the UFC and retired. Even if that happens, I am not going to be swayed from my belief that, let's say 5 years ago, he was no worse than the third best featherweight in the world. I wish in 2020, well, hell, I wish right after he lamped Michael Chandler 6 years ago, that we'd gotten to see him against Max Holloway at the time. Hell, like, because it's not just the win streak. You could see the skills. He was undersized for the division. I mean, still is undersized for the division, but kind of like Alexander Volkanovski, he got past it with very underrated athleticism and just incredible game planning and a skill set perfectly designed to make the best use of his physical tools. Like just, in his prime, fast, explosive athlete, super hard hitter, very good offensive wrestler, and a lockdown grappler, especially if he scored the takedown and landed on top. I mean, it's not a 100% overlap, but there were a lot of things about him that were reminiscent of Volkanovski. It's another matchup I would love to have seen just a couple of years ago. Crack's starting to show a little bit. when you're that small and your success depends that much on your fast twitch athleticism, your reflexes, your durability, when the wheels start falling off, they can fall off fast. He made that silly choice 2 years ago to basically just fight a no-name lightweight out of nowhere. Like, he was over in Japan for Super Ryzen to corner his brother. He's like, yeah, I'll fight this Suzuki guy. Got knocked out in like 2 minutes. So he's not looked great over the last couple of years. And against Rodriguez back in April, I mean, he didn't look fully shot, but he just looked a step behind. Again, I have no way of proving it, but in 2019, 2020, I think he would have been hell for Rodriguez to deal with. I think he would have taken Rodriguez down. I think he would have mauled him on the ground. I think it would have, looked, yeah. So what we have now, Ige is actually kind of the perfect opponent for him. I no longer think, like, win or lose on Saturday, I no longer think Pitbull is a threat to the UFC featherweight title picture. So yeah, throw him in against kind of marquee level names in fights that are going to be a whole lot of fun. This is one of them. And it helps that Ige has always been a little bit undersized for 145 as well. Ige, like, good boxer, underratedly good wrestler, tough as nails. I picked his last fight wrong. I thought Woodson was going to box him up bad. I'm not going to make that mistake twice in a row. Like, there's so much in me that wants to take Pitbull in this fight in the mild upset. I could see Pitbull, like, just turning to his wrestling and taking Ige down. Ige's offensive wrestling has always been better than his defensive wrestling. And Pitbull, I mean, probably still a very heavy top position grappler. But give me Ige to win 2 rounds out of 3 in an absolute barn burner that stays on the feet for most of the time.
Dude, I don't know if you saw me make a look. I was surprised that Ige was the favorite. I thought for sure that Pitbull would be the favorite. I know he didn't look great against Yair Rodriguez, but on the flip side, it also Yair Rodriguez. And I think what I would have liked to see was Pitbull from, like you said, 4 or 5 years ago versus Yair Rodriguez right now. Because Pitbull 4 or 5 years ago beats Rodriguez 4 or 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But your Rodriguez now is much improved from that guy. So, like, I would see them both at their peak fighting each other. That would have been exciting. I really wanted Pitbull to be good in the UFC just because, like, he fought in Mohegan Sun a bunch of times. There was a stretch where Bellator was like home stable was Mohegan Sun. Not even counting the whole COVID thing, but they'd be there, I don't know, 2-3 times a year anyways.
And it has to be the venue they've been at the most.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's like that and the one in Oklahoma City there, the Thackerville.
The Thackerville, and then they go up to, like, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Weird.
Yeah. They went to LA a bunch too, but yeah. No, Mohegan Sun was no one because during COVID for, like, I think a whole year it was just Mohegan Sun.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I saw Pitbull a bunch of times. I've seen him fight in action at least 7, I don't know 7, but a shitload of times. I've seen his brother fight. I've interviewed them, even though they don't speak English. They're very nice and they speak more English than they pretend they do. But so I wanted him to be good because he like everything you said. There's gonna be people who thinks he was a bum, and he wasn't. And we got a shell of his former self. Now the shell of himself is still pretty good. Now it's way past his prime, but it's still pretty good. He used to be this pressure striker. His obviously his volume dropped. He was very gun shy against Yair Rodriguez. His hand speed has dropped. That is probably the thing people need to talk about more than anything. He still has power, though. He can knock out anybody with either hand. And that was always his thing. He springs forward at his foe with serious power hooks. He has mean kicks. Even at the end of the career, Well, you know what I was gonna say. Let me change this. I think he should consider grappling more at the end of his career. Um, use movement, and then grapple. He's a very underrated wrestler. He's good at getting to the clinch, getting some inside trips. He has a very good top game. Like you talk about 4 or 5 years ago was, he was, or whatever you said it was 3 years ago or something like that. When he was beating up Daniel Weichel and Juan Ancelotti, I mean, he showed great takedowns, the top game against those guys. He's a very good grappler. He's a submission threat. I love his guillotine. Now, he will play BJ too much off his back, but he's slick on his back. I mean, even against Rodriguez, I mean, he spent a lot of time on his back. He almost got an armbar. Was it an armbar or was? Can't he? I think it was. Yeah, I think it was an armbar or a triangle. I can't remember. I remember him tossing up a submission at the end of the fight, and it was super fast. I think it was an armbar, like super fast. Now, I am worried about his chin. He's been in so many wars. I mean, he got hurt against Rodriguez. He hasn't been reacting well to strikes, so that's concerning. Now, Ige, I mean, guy's gonna be a fan favorite forever. He's a pressure fighter, great volume on the feet, good boxing, especially in the pocket, which is an era before it was like no-go zone against Pitbull. Don't get in the pocket with Pitbull. That might not be the case anymore. Good accuracy. He loves his counter right. He also has got a good left hook counter. He throws a lot of overhand rights. He works the body well. Perfect example is the Damian Jackson fight. I want to bring up the Damian Jackson fight because that was spectacular. His knockout of Damian Jackson. He dropped Lerone Murphy in their fight. He's got a good kicking game. He'll throw some flying knees and stuff. He has a traditional high guard defense. He's a good wrestler. Good at more really like an opportunistic wrestler. Good at like wrestling when his opponents open up the strike. He does need to improve his own takedown defense though. I'd say he's a good overall grappler though. Good top control, good ground and pound. He has the cardio to go hard all 15 minutes. That's probably the biggest strength of his skills. He's got to go hard. I am a little worried about his durability though. He has faced some top ranked guys and taken tons of damage. So, like again, I said I was very surprised that Ige was the favorite just because of the resume of Pitbull, and this is a really hard fight to pick. If Pitbull was in his prime, I would feel extremely comfortable picking him here. I think he's a stylistic nightmare for Dan Ige. Between his power, like where Ige strives, Pitbull's even better there. He has more power. I think he's a better grappler. But he's slowed down a lot, and this is a completely different fighter. And Ige has really good volume. He's got underrated power. I think Pitbull's going to land some of the big shots, but I can't count on Pitbull's volume anymore. If Ige can maybe stop some takedowns from Pitbull, if Pitbull looks to wrestle, as long as he doesn't get caught, because I still believe in Pitbull's power. I still think he can lamp anybody. I'm gonna say the volume of Ige is gonna be too much. I thought I was taking like a big upset here, but I was surprised Ige being the favorite. Give me Ige by decision.
Third from the top at UFC 318 is a welterweight matchup between Kevin Holland and Danny Rodriguez. Holland, the 32-year-old Texan, is 28-13 with one no contest overall. He is 15-10 with one no contest after joining the UFC out of Season 2 of Dana White's Contender Series. He has bounced back and forth between 170 and 185 pounds. He's 6-4 at welterweight, and he is on a 2-fight win streak coming into this fight, both of those fights at welterweight. He's already fought 3 times this year because he's Kevin Holland. The last 2 of those against Gunnar Nelson in March and Vicente Luque just 6 weeks ago at UFC 316 were both wins, both at welterweight. He'll look to make it 3 in a row in his probably better division at the expense of Rodriguez. 38-year-old from Southern California is 19-5 overall. He is 9-4 in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight win streak himself, dating back to last fall. He fought most recently in May at UFC on ESPN Sandhagen versus Figueiredo, where he knocked out Santiago Ponzinibbio in the 3rd round. Prior to that, he fought last October at UFC Fight Night Royval versus Tyra, where he picked up a split decision over Alex Morono. He'll be looking for his third straight win as well. He is not favored to get it, to say the least. Holland, comfortable favorite, minus 450. Rodriguez plus 350.
It's still there. It's still Kevin Holland. Like, he shouldn't be that big a favorite over anybody.
I mean, okay, so let's move on to the next fight.
How can you bet on Kevin Holland? Not saying he shouldn't be the favorite, but to trust Kevin Holland not to do something stupid, not to like laugh and joke instead of throw punches, and I don't know.
No, I'm completely with you on that. Like, I understand on a skill level and a kind of physical level why he should be a massive favorite. It's nice that Rodriguez is on a 2-fight win streak, but Rodriguez has been looking increasingly shot, and he just happened to fight 2 guys in his last 2 fights who are probably more shot than him, all due respect to my professor, Alex Morono. But he outlasted Morono, and then he definitively outlasted Ponzinibbio as he knocked him out in the 3rd round. His routes to beating Kevin Holland do not include that. Like, Holland is going to be taller, rangier. Rodriguez at his best has been a very good, solid boxer, but his hand speed has slipped. His head movement is what it used to be. His durability is not what it used to be. And Holland, for as, you know, kind of lanky as he is and doesn't look like he's always sitting down on his punches, has stinging power, especially at 170 pounds. If things go to the ground is really, I think, where you're flipping a coin with Kevin Holland. I feel as though you kind of know what you're getting from him on the feet, but the ground game, just even his willingness to go there or not, because sometimes he'll defend takedowns a lot harder than he will other times. And sometimes he'll pursue takedowns in certain fights and won't in others. If you have don't give a shit Kevin Holland, that's when he's lying flat on his back in guard, goofing off, talking to his opponent while he's losing rounds. Rodriguez is a good top position grappler. I could see him pulling off the upset that way, just getting Holland down and parking on top. And with Holland, I almost wonder if it's a thing like, if he feels like it would be hard to get back up, he's not even going to try because he doesn't want to try and fail. He like wants to act like the fight is going exactly how he wants it. Like, you know, I've got you right where I want you. I'm not even going to try to psychoanalyze the guy, but that's what it's looked like a few times. Luckily, most of those were at 185. At 185 was where, you know, you're like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Oh, like where people like Derek Brunson would take him down and he's just goofing around because he knows he can't get up from underneath this huge, good wrestling 185 pounder. It happens less at 170. Like, again, starting from the opposite proposition, the possible upset scenarios are right there for the taking for Rodriguez. I don't know whether he's going to be able to hang with Holland long enough to pursue any of them, because I really do think Holland's going to probably tee off on him on the feet. Just, he's going to have better reach, better hand speed at this point. Even bad Holland probably throws better volume than Rodriguez now, and whatever Holland's faults may be, he has the cardio and generally the durability to do his thing for 3 rounds. So Rodriguez isn't going to just win a war of attrition like he did against Alex Morono last year. I think Holland wins a decision. I hope we get good Holland and he just styles on Rodriguez. Not because I don't like Rodriguez. I think he's awesome, but just someone as talented as Kevin Holland, if I have to watch him 5 times a year, I'd at least like to watch him like really put in work 5 times a year. So give me Holland by decision. But yeah, if I were a betting man, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole at minus 450.
Yeah, dude, I agree with everything you said. Exactly everything you said. Dude, I'm not breaking down Holland fights anymore. The only thing I'll say is the dude is untrustworthy. He's got a really good dart choke. If you make a mistake, he's got a really good dart choke, and I like him much better at welterweight than at middleweight. That's something else I'll say in recent history that has changed about Holland.
Keith, this is the 24th Kevin Holland fight that we have previewed.
Yeah, like I'm done talking about
24. I remember a few years ago, we were trying to do a mental count, and he and Angela Hill were both at like 11 or 12. And he is now at 24, and I think Angela's probably fought like 3 more times since then. Like, Kevin Holland, we've probably previewed almost as many of his fights as like any 2 other fighters. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy. I mean, people talk about they want to be busy. There's nobody like Kevin Holland. I mean, he's Travis Fulton of like the UFC.
Yeah. No, he wants to be like Cowboy Cerrone or Neil Magny, but at this point he's busier than either of them ever were.
Oh yeah.
We went crazy because Neil Magny fought 5 times in a year once, and he like Holland averages more than 4 fights a year for the last 5 years.
I don't think you guys ever turned down a fight in his life. It's absolutely. I mean, it's crazy. You think about he's fought. You said 24 times in what 5 years?
Yep.
If you are a welterweight or a middleweight in the UFC and you have 10 fights, how have you not fought Kevin Holland at some point?
Seriously.
So, Rodriguez, he's a southpaw. He's a massive welterweight. Good output on the feet, fast hands, works on a good jab. His whole game is kind of centered around that jab. He is like your classic boxer though. Like he has good output on the feet, but he doesn't mind a slow paced, clean boxing match. Like he'll prefer that. He follows up with his straight left with like a nice short right hook after it. He loves his check left hook. Tim Means, Preston Parsons both got busted up by that. He has been throwing a lot of more looping punches lately, trying to like I think generate more power. Despite looking like a power puncher, he really isn't one. And some of that is that he doesn't have a killer instinct. I mean, I always go back to that Kelvin Gastelum fight. Like he was teeing up Kelvin Gastelum. If he turned up the volume in that, he could have got a finish in that fight. He throws too many on punches instead of stepping in and really cracking. To his credit, he was throwing big combinations against Santiago Ponzinibbio, so he might be turning the page on that, which is good. He does also like land the way he dips and so he lands from weird angles. The problem is he is very hittable. He eats a lot of shots. He's got a good calf kicks. It's sometimes people only box, but when he lets the kicks go, he's got some good calf kicks. You mentioned it. He's an underrated grappler. He doesn't look to wrestle often, but he can sneak in a takedown once in a while, and I think it'd be a good strategy against Kevin. You're playing with fire because Kevin Holland is really a serious submission threat. If you miss a takedown, you end up in a scramble. But if you can pin Kevin Holland against, on the mat, pin him down, you're gonna have a lot of success because he'll play on his back too much. Rodriguez, his defensive wrestling has been inconsistent. He has 3 subs on his record. He has gassed out in the past, and he's had moments where he's mentally broke. Like I thought Neil Magny kind of broke him a little bit. I think we have a good striking battle on the hands if they both decide to strike. That said, I think Holland lands the better shots because of his longer range kicking. I actually get the more power. I think if it grapples, it's weird. I agree with everything you say. I do think that if the grappling could be successful, Rodriguez, depending how it grapples. If he can sneak in takedowns, he doesn't telegraph things. He can get to the hips and get him down before Holland really gets a chance to react. He'll have a lot of success. The problem is if he shoots in, he misses it, he gets stuck on knees. You get in one of these like front headlock positions. Holland is good there, man. I can see him because he's got those crazy long arms. I can see him locking in a dart choke. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Holland's going to land shots from out of range. I think Rodriguez is going to make a mistake. I'm going to say it's going to come late. I'm going to say Holland wins by 3rd round submission.
That brings us to the co-main event of UFC 318, a middleweight matchup between former title challenger Paulo Costa and Roman Kopylov. Costa, the 34-year-old Brazilian, is 14-4 overall. He is 6-4 in the UFC. He has not fought yet this year, and he has lost 4 of his last 5 fights. He's on a 2-fight losing streak comprising both of his cage appearances of 2024. fought most recently just over a year ago at UFC 302, where he dropped a split decision to Sean Strickland in a 5-round co-main event attraction. So he's looking to snap a 2-fight win streak, hoping to turn around that run of 4 losses and 5 appearances, looking to show that at still just 34 years old, he might still have something to offer the division. In order to do any of those things, he will need to get past Kopylov. 33-year-old Russian is 14-3 overall. He's 6-3 in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight win streak. Ever since succumbing to a second-round submission by Anthony Hernandez last February, he has back-to-back wins over Cesar Almeida. That was at UFC 302 last summer. And then Chris Curtis, whom he knocked out with a literal second-to-go buzzer-beater head kick at UFC Fight Night Dern versus Ribas in January. So he's looking for his 3rd straight win, looking to cement himself as more than a top 10 fighter, maybe outskirts of the top 5 type fighter, and a threat to compete for a title sometime in the next year or so. He is favored to do so. He is minus 270, where Costa is plus 220. Keith, I dread the idea of trying to guess where Paulo Costa is mentally and physically, competitively right now, which is why I'm going to exert my privilege as the MC of the show and flip this one to you first.
Yeah, it's funny because people, a lot of people say, oh, when you picked that one wrong, you picked that one right. Sometimes we have fights like this where we're just completely guessing on a guy that fights once a year for 5 years. You got to base and my New England accent would come out. It's weird for me to say Costa. It's Costa where I grew up. I grew up in a very Portuguese area, and everyone says Costa. But he's a march forward striker. That's when we last seen. It's why when he's lost, he's been pressure back. He didn't like the pressure from Sean Strickland. He didn't like the pressure from Robert Whittaker. He is a boxer. He does well to cut off the cage. His best strike is his left hook. He likes to throw it to the head. He also throws it to the body. He will open up and with some big combos when he has a chance. It seems like it's a theme, and I'm trying not to make a theme, but I've said this a lot. He's a guy that's willing to eat a shot to land one of his own. I think that's the theme for a lot of the guys on this card. He does have a good chin based on the guys he's fought. I mean, only Izzy has been able to knock him out, but that's a prime Izzy. That's a special fighter. That Izzy was special. He has power if he can connect. I love the way he works the body first before he starts going upstairs, and that's how you get the knockouts. He'll throw a lot of high kicks, but it's really those calf kicks that are brutalizing. He never wrestles, but he did take Marvin Vettori down. He's hard to take down himself. He's a guy that you think he gassed out because obviously he's had all those weight cut issues and missing weight and moving up in weight and the whole saga of that. But he's shown much better cardio than people think. I mean, his cardio was not an issue against Robert Whittaker or Sean Strickland. They were just better fighters than him, but he didn't really gas out. Now, he'll look tired with all those muscles, and he'll slow down slightly, but he isn't completely gassed. After the 2 fights in, both of them are losses, but the weight cut issues seem to be a thing of the past. Kopylov, I mean, he's a big middleweight himself. He's very athletic. He's southpaw. I'd say like a Muay Thai striker, kickboxing type striker. Does his best from range, which is why he struggled with the pressure of Anthony Hernandez. Again, write another name on the list for Anthony Hernandez. He's got some good output. He is a builder. He's a guy who gets stronger as the fight goes on. He works behind a nice jab. He throws straight shots down the pike, throws good combinations. He showed some really good power against Cesar Almeida, rocked him a bunch of times. Good variety in striking, really, really great kicking game, great high kick. Stopped Puna Soriano with a body kick, stopped Josh Fram with a body kick. Beautiful KO of Claudio Ribeiro with a high kick. So he's just got a really good variety in striking. He's an underrated wrestler too. He doesn't wrestle, that's not his go-to, but I mean, he wrestles Cesar Almeida a lot in their fight. Though he will shoot sometimes without a setup. If he's taken down, he's hard to hold down. If he's on top, he's got good top control, though he's not much of a submission artist. So as far as prediction goes, it's always hard to pick Paulo Costa fights because Paulo Costa, who fought Yoel Romero, looked really special.
Yes.
That was 6 years ago. Unfortunately, he's fought 5 times since then. And I have really felt like we missed out on Paulo Costa's prime. Because it was so. How many of his fights did we get in his prime? Yoel, maybe Izzy. And then it was.
He fought once in 2018, once in 2019, once in 2020, once in 2021, once in 2022, not at all in 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, he spent literally his entire prime as a once-a-year fighter.
Yeah, and that's sad because he, like, the Yoel Romero guy looked really good.
Yeah.
And even if getting knocked out by Izzy, like, Izzy was knocking out everybody then, so.
He was, and that was a specifically terrible style matchup for.
Yeah, he rushed in and got tagged.
Costa.
He got rushed in and got tagged. So did Robert Whitaker in the first fight. So Izzy was a badass dude. One of the greatest fighters ever. I think this line could be closer than it suggests because Costa's prime, Costa's output. It's only a 3-round fight, but I'm still all over Kopylov here. I think he kicks Costa from distance a lot. I think as the fight goes on, he picks up the output in the second and third. As the fight goes on, again, I think the Paulo Costa cardio thing isn't as big an issue as people think, but it's more of he will lose power as the fight goes on. Like, he's not complete gas, but the threat of landing a knockout, obviously, and that's anybody as the fight goes on. Usually, the one punch knockout, not the cumulative. The guy's body breaks on him, but it's more of like that. You make one mistake, the guy puts you out kind of thing. I think Kopylov kicks, moves, plays it safe. Give me Kopylov by decision.
Yeah, you did exactly what I hoped you would do. I gave you this fight to break down first. You laid out the reasons why it is a nightmare to try to predict a Costa fight at this point. All we have to go on is what he's looked like the last couple times we saw him out there. And for what it's worth, he has looked like a gradually eroding version of the same fighter. It's not like things have fallen apart completely. And the UFC's given him no breaks. He's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. The one win is over Luke Rockhold that basically came out of retirement for that one fight, and we all assumed was shot. And the rest of them are all against literally top 5 contenders. Costa keeps losing, and he keeps getting top 5 guys. But even if he's the same guy that was pretty competitive against Whitaker and Strickland, I think at best it comes out about like that against Kopylov. Kopylov is better than I gave him credit for when he got to the UFC. And ironically, even though it's his only loss in several years, the Anthony Hernandez fight made me think that Kopylov is more likely to stay a factor in this division going forward because, yeah, he got choked out in the second round, but he was winning the fight up until about a minute before it ended, and he'd actually thwarted most of Hernandez's takedown attempts during that time. Like, that was kind of the last missing piece for me to think about Kopylov as an actual fringe contender was, well, can he stay on his feet against a determined takedown artist? That's neither here nor there going into this fight. I don't think Costa's going to try to take him down. I think the best Costa can do is kind of slow this fight down and lose all 3 rounds to Kopylov without it getting completely away from him. Again, kind of like the Whitaker fight did. I think that's probably what we get here. Kopylov, he may only be a year younger in age, but he feels a lot younger in terms of mileage. He seems to be improving from fight to fight and sharpening his skills where Costa at best is stagnating. Sure, Costa could shock us. He could land one huge punch. He could nail Kopylov and have him hobbling after his first 2 or 3 leg kicks. It's been a while since we saw him really take over a fight with those, but those are all outside possibilities. I think Kopylov wins probably all 3 rounds and makes it look pretty routine. I've got Kopylov by decision. With that, we come to the main event of UFC 318, a lightweight bout for the UFC's BMF belt between Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. Holloway, the 33-year-old Hawaiian, is 26-8 overall. He is 22-8 in the UFC. He is 1-1 at lightweight. His lightweight debut in the UFC was in his first meeting with Poirier 6 years ago. We'll talk about that later. And then he came back at UFC 300 last April, fought Justin Gaethje for the BMF belt, knocked him out with one of the most sensational finishes in MMA history, the last second knockout at the end of a fight of the year candidate, of course. He fought most recently at UFC 308 last October, getting blasted by Ilia Topuria in the third round. He is back now facing Poirier. 36-year-old Louisiana native is 30-9 with 1 no contest overall. He is 22-8 with 1 no contest in the UFC. He is coming off a loss in his most recent outing. He faced Islam Makhachev just a little over a year ago in the headliner of UFC 302, trying to win the UFC lightweight title. He ended up tapping to a Darce choke in the 5th round. This is his first fight back since then. It is his declared retirement fight. It is at his request in his home state of Louisiana. These two, of course, have met 2 times in the past. The first time was in Holloway's UFC debut all the way back at UFC 143, 13 years ago and change. Poirier tapped him out with a triangle armbar from Mount in the first round. They met again in 2019 at UFC 236 for the interim UFC lightweight title. Poirier ended up winning the unanimous decision in a rousing fight. They meet now again for the 3rd time, the final time, 6 years later. Keith, your favorite is minus 120. Your underdog is plus 105. Who are they?
Dude, I love that it's this close. So that's how it should be, because this is a super hard fight to pick. Poirier has won twice, so I can see the argument for him. But I'm going to guess Holloway is the favorite.
You are correct. Dustin Poirier is your underdog, plus 105 or so. Max Holloway, your favorite, minus 120. And sure, Poirier won the first 2 meetings, including the second one, which was actually in this weight class and is at least remotely relevant to the fighters they are now. But despite that, Holloway is the favorite, and I do understand why.
Because he's the man.
Because he's the man, and he's the man specifically in ways that make me feel better about his chances in this fight. Again, their first fight, that's a complete throwaway. It was 145 pounds. Poirier was young, but Holloway was green. Holloway was literally like this 20-year-old like kid. He's not even recognizable. Like, he has no facial hair. He has like one tattoo.
He's like a Boy Scout still.
Yeah. He looks like an elongated Boy Scout.
Yeah,
Their second fight,
he missed his little league game to go fight Dustin Poirier.
like their second fight 6 years ago is a little more interesting to watch. And I, obviously rewatched it leading into this. And it's interesting. Like, I remembered it in broad strokes, but there were things I misremembered about it as well. Like my mental snapshot was, okay, Holloway off a historic run at featherweight, moves up to 155, and clearly Poirier's power gave him pause. That was my remembrance. And that's definitely the story of the first 2 rounds, but Holloway won the 3rd round and arguably won the 4th. And that's when he started to look like Max Holloway. Because, if you've heard any of our previews, you probably heard my description of Holloway. Like once he really gets flowing, especially, he's become a little bit more of a conventional kickboxer, but especially like 2016 to 2019 when he was at his best, he almost rendered the concept of stances irrelevant because he would just throw these like 6, 7, 8 strike combinations, moving forward, using kicks as kind of a stealthy way to switch stances. And none of the individual shots were killers. I mean, I'm sure they didn't feel good. He has that many TKOs for a reason, but it was just like a combine harvester running somebody over. It was just death by 1,000 cuts coming at you. And yeah, he's just breathtaking. He's one of the awesomest fighters in MMA history. And coming in to the Poirier fight, Poirier caught him clean a couple times in the first 90 seconds of the first round. And it's not like Holloway quit. It's Max Holloway. But he's like, okay, I can't do my usual thing against this guy. He's going to hurt me too bad. And it took him a while to regroup. Round 3 and round 4, he started to look a little more like the vintage Max Holloway. And like I say, 3rd round, definitely a Holloway round. 4th round was close. And then the 5th round, Poirier took over. And again, did it with just a couple of shots that just kind of snapped Holloway's head back a little bit and clearly had impact. But the fight was closer and more competitive from round to round than I expected. And the thing that's happened since then is both guys have been on solid runs since then. They've won some fights, they've lost some fights. But Poirier's legendary durability has started to just crack at the seams a little bit. I mean, he got head kicked by Justin Gaethje fairly early in their fight. Like both of Poirier's fights with Conor McGregor were weird, but like everybody's hit Poirier since then, and even in his wins, the other guys have kind of hurt him a little bit. Like, and meanwhile, Holloway just jumped right back on the horse and has been Max Holloway again. And except for Ilia Topuria, he's gone through some really hard hitters and come out on the better side of it. I mean, he went 5 rounds with Justin Gaethje, and he's the one that put Gaethje face down with one shot at the end. I think that those are the changes that make me favor Holloway now. Like, we can only hope to have a classic fight here. I expect we're going to have a great one, but I am more confident in Holloway's ability to deal with Poirier's power, and I am less confident in Poirier's ability to deal with Holloway's. And I think Holloway hits harder than he did 6 years ago. All of that, just the little incremental changes over the 6 years since their second fight, make me favor Holloway slightly in this one. I could see it being something between Holloway and Poirier's second fight, which, I mean, it was a great fight, but it wasn't 5 rounds of madness like Holloway versus Gaethje. But maybe something between those two fights we can only hope for. That would redeem this entire otherwise kind of miserable card. But give me Holloway, and sad as it makes me to say it, considering this is Poirier's retirement fight, this is Poirier in front of his people, like literally, I think Holloway probably finishes him. Give me Holloway by, I'm going to say round 4 KO. And I could see it's 2 rounds to 1, maybe even 2 rounds to 1 in favor of Poirier going into it. But just Holloway hits a little harder. Poirier's chin and his reflexes in the pocket are just a little bit less than they were. And that's all the difference. Holloway, round 4 KO. Please tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking about Dustin Poirier for a second, and it's like only Dustin Poirier would have won, 2-0. And again, I agree with you saying like the first fight, forget it. But up 2-0 in the rivalry, the guy's moving up a weight class. The guy's coming off his first knockout loss. You're in your home state, your own city, the card that was set up for you, and you're still the underdog. So that I'm glad that you broke down the second fight, because the second fight, I thought you saw the best of both fighters at moments in that you could really sum up their careers. So
that's a great way to put it, man. Thank you.
Because like you have Holloway in the, like you said, the third round, like he's getting cracked. Like he's like, it's the first time we saw Holloway during that, and that was the fight that ended. What was it, like 13 wins in a row and everything, and
yeah,
and it was the first time where it was like, whoa, like Holloway was like reacting to punches, and he's like almost getting moved around by the punches, and it was like, oh shoot, like this is too much for him. This is too big. He's about to get trashed. And then all of a sudden he just starts voluming him, and he gets in that zone. He's landing his strikes and he's looking great. And like you said, the third round is all Holloway. The fourth round, Poirier might have stolen it at the very end because he rocked him at the very end. But like, it looks like it's going to be Holloway, and Holloway's going to steal it back on Poirier, and everything's going to go wrong. And then you see the best of Dustin Poirier back against the wall. Everything's going wrong. You need a late thing, and he finds a way to dig deep. Like he had that thing in him that other people wouldn't have. Other people would have been in full panic. Other people would have folded to the pressure of Max Holloway. Instead, he finds a way to win, get the interim title. You know, it's the highlight of Dustin Poirier's career. And that and obviously beating Conor twice is obviously just because of the name. But I mean, on pure accomplishment, on what accolades, that was the highlight. I mean, I still would put the biggest moment, obviously, anytime you beat Conor, the biggest star in the sport would be number one. But this fight is awesome. So I bashed the UFC card, and I mean, if you think about a pay-per-view, like, when was the last time you had both fighters coming off losses? Both fighters coming off stoppage losses, and headlining a pay-per-view. I'll start with Holloway. I mean, he is technically the champion. I don't give a shit about the BMF. You don't need you don't have to give a belt to Max Holloway for me to know how much of a badass this dude is.
But if the UFC needs to do that to justify making it a pay-per-view headliner, then I guess it's a good thing.
Yeah, okay. Like, Max Holloway is a once in a lifetime person. Like, his lines that he said, he is one of the best guys on the mic without trying. Like, I'm gonna say this. I said this last time we got Max Holloway. I'm gonna say it again. His Gladiator line where he's moving up a weight and he's to fight Justin Gaethje, and people saying, "Oh, that's crazy, didn't work out last time." And he's like, "We're supposed to be gladiators. I didn't see them walk around with a scale." Like that was badass. And I said it last time, like, if he was born 1,000 years ago, he would have been a dude kicking some guy off a cliff screaming, "This is Sparta," because that's who Max Holloway. Like, he's a different creature, man. He's obviously he's one of the funnest guys. Like, there's a certain guys I like to break down. Max Holloway is one of my favorites. It's skill wise. I'm amazed by him. He's a long and lanky fighter. He's a high output striker. That when I think of builders, Holloway is the first guy I think of. Even in the second Poirier fight, like we talked about, where he started coming on with his volume, he marches down his foe, slowly just trying to take ground. I said this before. He's like a general in the friggin' 70s, 100s. He's trying to win the battlefield. He might be the best boxer in UFC history. Though the Poirier started to make a good argument, but based on the whole body of work right now, it might be Max Holloway. I mean, that clip of what he did to Complicated, when he looks away and he's avoiding strikes while talking to Dana and stuff, is the most. It seems fake, like a TikTok video or something. The guy can flow out of both stances. He works behind a great jab. Then he gets in the pocket and he does damage with his hand speed and his accuracy. I mean, he's really accurate. Especially if he starts picking up his opponent's rhythm, as you were saying. If Holloway finds his range, he's like in the Matrix. It's like, you watch the Matrix movies, right? The second one, I don't know if it's the first one. No, I think it's wherever Keanu Reeves is just like, oh, it's the Matrix, like, or whatever he says, and then all of a sudden he gets it, and then he starts stopping the bullets and shit.
Yeah, it's towards the end of the first one.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
where you first get like the bullet time thing. Where
Okay. Yeah. But like that's Max Holloway. Like he or like when Luke Skywalker uses the Force. Like, it's like he's using the Force. Like it's unreal when you find that moment. There's always a moment you're like, oh, here he is. it's like Mozart playing the piano, Michelangelo painting a picture or some shit. He's a master. He's creating a masterpiece, and he does it with his hands, with his fists. When he starts open up in combinations, you know he's in the zone. He has so much variety. He attacks with new things each fight. I love when he lands a combo and then instantly changes stance and attacks with another combo on the other side. His rear punch from either stance is a thing of beautiful. It's kind of like if he's in the orthodox, he's kind of right. If he's in the southpaw, he's kind of left. He works the body so well. I go back to like the Arnold Allen fight. He was beating him up with body shots. He'll just touch and then explode when there's an opening. The one thing that's been a knock on his career was that he lacked one punch power. Well, tell that to Korean Zombie and Justin Gaethje and I think it was back-to-back fights. And he still is the crazy thing. Like he's I'm not saying he's entering his prime, but he's still young. Like he still can add skills, which is crazy. Here's a perfect example of adding a skill. He landed a spinning wheel kick against Justin Gaethje at the end of the first, that he credits. That's the reason why he did the fight, because he broke Justin Gaethje's nose. That's when he was able to take over the rest of the fight. The one thing I am worried heading in this fight is how will he react after he's finally suffered a KO loss. Before Topuria, he had one of the greatest chins of all time, and I still think he does. It's more of the mental part. He's never experienced that. But then you think of Max Holloway, and I'm like, yeah, dude, if this guy fought in the Coliseum, he would have got his arm cut off, and he'd still have been swinging. And he'd pick up his arm and start clubbing some freaking tiger that just got let out of a cage on him. He's now he is open to leg kicks. That's another knock on him. Like Volkanovski's showed that when he kicks his legs. He never wrestles, but he's very hard to get that, taken down, and he'll snatch a neck if you do. Great cardio. He's going to go hard all 15 minutes. We know that. And he also has so much heart. I mean, he battles through beatings against Poirier, against Volkanovski, against list on and on and on and on. That moment where he's winning against Justin Gaethje and there's 10 seconds left and he goes, I just watched the Countdown show today, and he's like, well, he gave me the opportunity to fight for the BMF. I got to give him the opportunity to knock me out. Like, who thinks of that? Nobody else thinks that. I got to give him the opportunity to knock me out. Like, what? Like, he's the man. I love Max Holloway, but I love Dustin Poirier. I mean, how could you not? Southpaw, really big, strong lightweight. How he used to fight at featherweight is insane. He's a big dude. He showed against Islam Makhachev that he's still pretty good. Like, yeah, Makhachev won, but there was a lot of moments of that fight where Dustin Poirier was beating, I shouldn't say beating, but having success against the best pound fighter in the world. At that time. I mean, I argue for Poirier if you want, but you get my point.
Yeah,
he's a southpaw. He's got really good output. I love that he switches stance in mid attack to get different angles. He's always been a very good boxer, technically sound. His hand speed has dipped a little bit, but and again, it's not as fast as it. Well, you know what? Let me back up. His hand speed has dipped again, but being fast was never part of his game. Like, he was never slow, but like that wasn't why he won. It was his accuracy, his timing, his power. I thought he looked slow against Benoit Saint Denis, but then he looked fast. Pretty fast against Makhachev. So he obviously is one of the biggest power punchers in UFC history, pound for pound. I mean, the amount of people that say, like, damn, when Poirier hits you get hurt. I mean, he knocked Benoit Saint Denis until next week. He's KO'd or hurt countless amount of guys. He butchers their face up. His counter right hook is legendary. He also works the body so well. Hard calf kicks. We saw that against McGregor in the second and third fight, attacking the legs. He doesn't check leg kicks himself. That's some success that Dan Hooker had against him. He's always been a pretty bad wrestler from distance. He's never been a big takedown artist. he more would get a takedown by using his size and getting to the clinch, getting it that way, or just kind of pressing against his cage, go from the clinch, then drop down to the hips and pull the leg out. But still, that's not like his game plan. I mean, McGregor is probably the only person where I don't want to say his primary strategy, but one of his primary goals was to use his wrestling a lot. Usually, he's going to stand and he's going to slug it out. He's not a great defensive wrestler. Everyone that has wrestling skills has been able to take him down. It don't matter. Max Holloway's not looking to take him down. And then also, obviously, Dustin Poirier is known for a jumping guillotine and never giving up on that guillotine. That would be awesome. And again, I'm not a Max. Like I'm the fucking biggest Max Holloway fan there is. I mean, how could you not? But if somehow there's a scramble and Dustin Poirier jumps guillotine and catches it against Max, could you fucking imagine? You can't even make that shit up. That would be. Dude, I'm hoping that happens now. I just thought it right now on the spot. I hope that happens. Again, I'm not. You know what? Take out Max Holloway, throw somebody else in, and do it too. I don't want to see. But or it'd be best if it was like an all-time slugfest, 5th round. It's 2 rounds too. It's super close. Holloway looks for legs, and everyone on planet Earth is like, no, don't jump the guillotine, Poirier. That's how you're gonna lose. And then he jumps the guillotine in the 5th and wins it. That'd be insane. I want that to happen now. So, anyways, back to like his wrestling. He's never been a good defensive wrestler, but to his credit, his defensive wrestling pretty good against Makhachev. For take it for worse, you still get taken down. It's Islam Makhachev. But the best part, I said the best part of Poirier's skill has been his punch power, but it's not. It's really not. The best part of his game is that he is a true BMF. Like, yeah, he hasn't had the BMF title. Maybe he wins it, but like, fuck you if you don't think Dustin Poirier is the baddest motherfucker. I mean, this dude gets when he like I said, when it gets hard, that's when he strives. He's just the ultimate gritty guy. The amount of late stoppages or winning late rounds in wars are legendary. I'm not trying to like chase any clout here or anything, but I listened to him in an interview right after he beat Michael Chandler, and it was one of the ones that he needed the last round. And I listed the guys in the moments where it's Max Holloway last round. It's just a list of guys, Justin Gaethje or Eddie Alvarez and this and that. And I kind of give him this clout and give this bit like, dude, why are you so different that you could find a way to dig deep? Instead of being like, oh, it's clutch, it's this and that, it's just like, that's fighting, man. He's like, it was just the most, and he wasn't like trying to punk me up. It was like the most like genuine, like, that's how I view fighting. Like that's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be like crushing your spirit. I'm like, this fucking guy, man. He's just different. He's like, when he retires, we're losing a very special person.
Yes. Yep.
Now, obviously, you got to worry about his chin, and I've been talking for a long time and I'm rambling, and I bashed this card, but now I'm getting super excited for this fight. Obviously, he's been clopped a lot, and obviously the Gaethje recently knocked him out and everything. I knocked this pay-per-view at the start, but that has zero to do with these two guys in the main event. I mean, I'm the biggest fan of both these guys. I feel privileged to watch these guys fight. Like, there's some guys they fight and you're like, oh, that's cool, but like, this is getting to see this all-time special people. Like when we talk about our kids and we say, my grandfather mentioned Ted Williams or something like that. Like, yeah, will Dustin Poirier be in that category? No, that'll be John Jones. That'll be George St. Pierre. But you'll hold them in a different aura than you do those guys. Poirier has the power. Yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, there's something like
you've got kids. I've got kids.
Yeah.
I'm always leery of pulling out sports figures as general role models. Like, just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you're good at necessarily being a human being. But either of the people in this main event, I'm happy to tell my sons, whatever you do it like Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier.
Oh, absolutely. And even like there's like Dustin Poirier, he is a perfect example, not only to how to act as a person, but also like experiencing failure and not giving up and, getting that revenge against, at one point, the biggest moment of his career was getting his face bounced off the mat in a minute to Conor McGregor, and then coming all the way back and winning that trilogy. Who the hell does that? Dustin Poirier does.
Yeah. So,
I mean, he's got the power. I mean, you know, does he have one more moment? Man, it'd be pretty freaking cool if he does. And dude, in this weird sense, like Max Holloway would appreciate it because, you know, that's who Max Holloway is. Like, he'd appreciate it if Dustin Poirier has a huge moment. I say we have another all-time classic. I expect it. I think these guys are going to beat the shit out of each other, and we're going to get everything we want. But I'm with you, man. I think this time it's going to be Holloway. I think Holloway's going to land the hardest shots. I think he's going to hit the cleanest shots. I think he's going to have the more volume. I think eventually drops Poirier with strikes, follows up with shots. I think the referee, you know, he calls the referee jump in. I say Holloway does in the third round. Give me Holloway by third round knockout.
And there you have it. The Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC 318, Holloway versus Poirier 3. I've been Ben. He has been Keith. If this is your first time watching or listening to one of our previews, first of all, thank you. We hope you enjoyed it. We do our best to bring a mix of in-depth analysis and occasional humorous or personal asides that we think is pretty unique in this space. Please do like, subscribe. We don't bug you guys enough to do that. We should be doing a better job at that, but that doesn't cost you guys a thing. It makes our bosses happy. It allows us to keep bringing you this content free of charge. Please do drop us a comment. Keith and I both man the comment section. We'd love to hear your takes on these fights. If you think we missed any upset value, let us know. I, for maybe only the second or third time in 200 cards we've covered, did not pick any underdogs. I'm ashamed of myself. Show me what time it is in the comments. Let us know what your upset pick is. If it's the main event, go with God. Please do join us for the recap. We'll be live on the Sherdog YouTube page right after the main event. Keith takes the captain's chair. We'll talk about all 14 of these fights in reverse order, from the headliner on down to the women's flyweight opener. We'll talk about what was good, what was bad, what was surprising, what was controversial. There's always something. We'll talk about what is next for some of the notable winners as well as losers, and we will talk with you. The live chat is open that whole time, so we are taking your questions, your comments, and your hot takes in real time. We have a growing community of friends that hang out with us after the fights, and we would love for you to be part of it. Between now and then, thank you once again for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and by all means, enjoy these fights.